Welcome. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Welcome. Okay, that's what I was waiting for. Welcome, everybody. Sorry, I have a little bit of reverb. I forgot to pause this. Well, welcome, everybody, to the True Sky Crew podcast, where we teach you to look up and see the sky for yourself. This is season 2, where the theme is United Under One Sky, because remember, there's a lot of greatness in celebrating all of our differences, but one fact remains the same: the true sky don't lie. And we need to be looking up at the celestial heavens for our astrological information instead of using a false tropical algorithm that is designed to separate us from nature. Okay. So I am your host, Sachi. You can find me at Sachi the Seer on Instagram, YouTube, Threads, X. Make sure you give me a follow there. And remember to also follow the True Sky Crew at the True Sky Crew on Instagram, Threads, X. And of course, subscribe to us here on YouTube. And if you want any True Sky tools or services, including the True Sky Calendar, which shows you what's going on in the real sky on a day-to-day basis, or if you just want to get your True Sky data presented to you in an easy way, or if you want a True Sky chart reading, all of that can be found in the description box of this video if you're watching the replay, and all of that can be found on sachitheseer.com. Alrighty. So we have a very special guest with us today. And Zubida Zwina. So Zubida Zwina is your fairy psychic big sister, guiding you with clarity, insight, and a touch of magic. She is the co-owner of Pokemoncy, or the co-creator of Pokemoncy, excuse me, and the co-owner of the Spiritual Gym Leaders. And she blends intuitive wisdom with practical tools for transformation. Master of her craft, she is a runes caster, energy worker, activator, and talisman creator, and of course, Pokemoncy reader as well, along with me in the Spiritual Gym Leaders. If you haven't checked out our business there, it is incredible. It's so amazing. So check it out. She is dedicated to helping busy bees access their highest potential and step into their sweet divine nectar. If you want to learn more about Zuby, you can watch the True Sky Crew's Aquarius episode in season 1, where she was our special Aquarius guest. And you can learn all about, in detail, Zubida's services, her gifts, her relationship with astrology, and a little bit more about her story. I highly recommend her energy work sessions. They are miraculous, and I'm not exaggerating one bit. Miracle-based energy work. And actually, there is some energy in the upcoming transits where I'll talk a little bit about my own experiences with Zuby's energy work, because I think it correlates very well to one of the stars that we're going to talk about. She also has a new offer that is available to the public now, which I was part of her private group a while back, and I will say it was super amazing. It works very, very well. It's called A Practical Guide to Realistic Change. It's a daily guidebook that helps you change your habits over the course of 44 days, which is perfect to start during Virgo season. Zuby, welcome so much to the podcast. Can you talk a little bit about your new offering?
Yes. Hi, Sachi. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here. And yeah, so the practical guide to realistic change, I'm super excited about it. As Sachi mentioned, I soft launched it with a private group. If you were there, you know how transformative it was. And now I revamped it and now offering it to the public because I truly believe that it can help change your life by taking the habits that you see as your most divine potential self and breaking it down into realistic change. We could be so caught up in the vastness of the grandness of our dream life, our dream selves, and it can feel overwhelming in the present because it might take, there's this gap between who we are now and where we are headed. And by collapsing that gap, we could take these practical steps, digest it easily, right? Virgo season, all about digesting things and digesting it, you know, uh, practically. And yeah, to create realistic changes, they say it takes, about 30 days to create a habit, but the 44 days is to solidify those habits. And also releasing habits. Maybe there's a habit that you want to release and replace with something even better. And right now I am running a special offer at this time. The guide is 40% off, and right now it's being sold at $16.20. So get it now before the price goes up. And yeah, I absolutely love it. And what's unique about this daily planner is I haven't seen it on the market, but I also talk about your learning style and how that you can use your learning style to bring in these habits and to work with your learning style rather than go against it, because everybody's different, right? We all have different ways of learning and obtaining things. And by learning a new habit, you're using your learning style in order to make sure that you can solidify these habits. So I'm really excited to offer this. And I'm also offering a coaching service that will be launching this week as well for those that want more accountability, because I did use this with the accountability buddies. That way there's somebody there to motivate you and inspire you. And if there's other eyes, you feel more inclined to stick with it and stick with your habits, which is an 8-week program where we'll meet once a week for about an hour with whether it's coaching, intuitive readings, and how you can make these progresses, or if you feel like there's blocks within your energy sphere, we can also do energy work, and all those services are included each week in the program. So I'm also excited to launch that, so stay tuned. And yeah, I'm really excited to be offering this. Yay, Virgo season.
Yes, Virgo season. I absolutely love it. So wonderful. If anyone is interested in this, check out Zubida's Etsy, which is right here. And I will also link this in the description box below for those who are watching the replay. Again, I highly recommend it. And knowing your learning style, and if you don't know your learning style, there's a portion of this book that tells you about what they are and then gives examples of things that you can do, which personally I found really helpful. And even learning more about me, and as my learning style has changed as I've grown, it's helped me be more consistent and find new ways to help change my habits and become a better version of myself, which, as all of you know, as a Phoenix, I am in that perpetual death and rebirth and evolution cycle of constantly becoming my very best self, the best that ever was. So without further ado, let's go into the transit. So we are going to be answering questions in the chat. If you're interested, let us know in the chat or in the comments how you are feeling, everybody. How was September transits for you? Let me know how you feel about Virgo season. Personally, I absolutely adore Virgo season. It's one of my favorite times. I'm spending a lot of time in the garden harvesting things that, from things that I put the work into before, during spring and summer. And it's just a really, really great time where I feel very grounded, ready to better myself in a lot of ways, grounding myself into new habits that I want to carry over through the winter into the new year once spring comes. So, what are your thoughts on Virgo season, Zuby?
I personally love Virgo season. The level of attention to detail that I feel in it, and kind of fine tuning, it kind of laser points certain things on what needs to be done. And kind of like what you said in the garden, I was just reflecting about it the other day, and I have a video that's going to be posting soon about, yeah, we are in harvest season. So part of harvest season is, reaping your rewards, but also there's some things that need to be put to rest. So that's why I love the garden as an example. When you're harvesting, some things are meant to be harvested, some things are meant to be recycled back into the earth. And, nature will take its course, whether that fruit will be, reseeded maybe with next season, or just completely die out. And just allowing it to take its course and not really being so fixated on it, but also the bounty of it and preparing the harvest, preparing the lessons while we transition into the dormant season and kind of integrating the lessons that we learn before we start the new season ahead. So it's a very transformative time. I love it. And it's also activating, yeah, my own Virgo license. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really, really great point, especially because Virgo does prepare us for these transitions where we go into some of the um, when we think about moving into Scorpius and Ophiuchus, which won't be until November, but it's kind of like the darker seasons, and Virgo does help us. It's like, okay, harvest what you can and leave what what needs to be returned to the earth. I really, really love that. That is such a fantastic point about Virgo and the mutability aspect of Virgo, of really being able to let things go.
Mm-hmm.
So we are starting off, of course, the sun is in Virgo. Virgo season is a long time. Virgo is currently about 49.5 degrees on the ecliptic. So we have more than 30 days in Virgo when it comes to the true Virgo season. We have so many more people who are born as Virgos than what they think. So if we are moving, we have the sun that's going to be activating Porma already, pretty much activating Porma here on the 30th of September, but going to be heightened between October 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So if you watched our last transit episode for October, then you know all about Porama, but if you want a little bit more information, this is a star that is known for prophetic abilities. So I recommend to pay attention to any psychic foresight that you may receive at this time, especially during the time where it's peaking. And interestingly enough, this star is associated with a lot of like clairvoyance and psychic abilities that turn on after giving birth. So it's very much connected to the divinity of procreation, the aspect of Virgo being like a mother, and it also, this star specifically is associated with more of the occult and the psychic, the witchy side of Virgo. Um, and it's also connected to the energetics of the way that a person holds themselves, specifically women or people in yin polarity, that the way that a woman holds herself in her esteem and her self-worth is correlated to the amount of material abundance that she will receive. So if she holds no value in herself, she will be in poverty. That will always materialize for her. Whereas someone who has very high self-worth will materialize a lot of material abundance. So it's a very interesting star to work with and feel the energies as it is associated with the material aspect of Virgo and the self-worth. On the most shadow side of this star, it has a lot of the energy of kind of the overworked mother or overworked woman type energy. I'm sure many of us know Virgos who just have no boundaries. They just always want to help people to their own detriment. They're constantly being treated like as a workhorse or very self-sacrificing, constantly doing things for other people, but never for themselves. That energy can come from Porma. And then we have it moving on, and it's going to be activating Theta Virginis here, starting around the 8th, really peaking on the 9th, 10th, 11th, and even activating into around the 12th, I would say. And this star is associated with eating for your blood type. So if you don't know your blood type, I highly recommend what it is and kind of feel and just do a test run around this time of eating for your blood type and then seeing how you feel. Like for me personally, I found out that my blood type, all my favorite foods, I shouldn't necessarily be eating. And that was really disappointing for me. So I've been resisting this information. But this Virgo season, I'm actually going to test it out and do it that way to see, do I feel better? Do I have more energy? How is my body responding? Um, but I do recommend fueling your temple with things that are designed for your blood type during this time. And this star is also associated with having a knack for financial and mathematic things. So if you have tasks to do of that nature, this is a great time, and especially the 10th through 12th, like when it's peaking. That's going to be, I'm sorry, the 10th and 11th, that's when it's going to be like the best time to do it. So this is that, spreadsheet, Excel loving side of Virgo that, that we find out in nature. Right? It's like the Virgo that's more analytical in nature, the ones that like the accountants and it's really all that metadata stuff and the paying attention to details and things like that, the numerically and more we'll say rational gifted aspect of Virgo. And then we move on. The sun is going to be activating Spica and peaking around 15th, 16th, 17th, and even 18th. And we will even go into the new moon that's going to be happening, which is activating Spica, and we'll talk about that momentarily. But Spica is a healing star that is associated with natural modalities of health. So it reminds us that food is medicine. It often highlights our consumption habits. So with the sun there, there's going to be a lot of light shown on our consumption habits in terms of yeah, what kind of food are you eating, but also what other things are you consuming, even though this um, star specifically is associated with the GI tract. So literally what you're eating. It's also very connected to wheat and bread. So a lot of people who are eating bread and, like low quality grains that have been sprayed with glyphosate and all of these terrible chemicals can often develop things like celiac disease and gluten intolerance and all those sorts of things, which most of it isn't actually an intolerance to those things. It's usually the body's way of telling you, hey, stop eating this because it's poisoned. So pay attention to the type of grain products that you're consuming at that time. And if you're having an upset tummy during this time, it's probably just the quality that you're eating. Highly recommend importing your flour from Italy. It's really not that expensive at all. And it has no glyphosate.
Which is,
And
oh,
go for it.
yeah, I had several things I wanted to say, but this specifically, which is very interesting because, Virgo season is all about harvest, right? Virgo, it can be sometimes depicted as the wheat, obviously, with breads and stuff. And I was just thinking about how, like, in my culture, and this is something that we talked about, and a lot of, countries outside of the US use bread a lot, right? And that's just the filler, back then, like from eating from the earth, the best thing to pair your food with was with bread, right? Because it helps you get fuller faster. You're working with a certain amount of foods, especially when you're transitioning from autumn into winter, right? The bread is kind of what will help sustain you and eating those breads, but obviously eating the highest quality bread is going to be the same thing. So there is something to be said about bread and Virgo with the stomach and being more full with bread and the code of that. And there's a lot of like bread codes, I guess, like, right, let's get this bread,
Mm-hmm.
money, like monetarily
Mm-hmm.
wise. And Virgo is, earth as well. So, that has to tie into that. So maybe if you are switching from higher quality breads, obviously sourdough bread is really good for GI stuff. It's really good for the gut biome. Maybe programming the bread to help you get more bread, more money as
Mm-hmm.
well as specifically maybe even at that time. So maybe programming bread, making bread, um, or even buying bread from the store. Just when you set the tone of getting higher quality things, even if it costs more, you're going to be rewarded with more because you're putting yourself first. You're putting your health first, and health is wealth. So, yeah, Virgo, health, and money all ties in, and maybe there is something going on around that time that has to do with money, health, bread, guts, stuff.
Definitely. I think that's a perfect bridge of the energetics of Porma and the energetics of Spica because it's like, okay, the stuff you're going to be consuming as the sun is transiting from Porma, it's like if you feel poorly about yourself, then you're going to buy poor things, the cheapest bread that has the worst ingredients, the most poison. And then if you do that, it's going to be reflected by the time the sun is in Spica, where you can have GI issues because the body doesn't want to have to digest all these poisons. It not only disrupts your GI tract, but it puts stress on all of your organs.
Mm-hmm. And the guts, the stomach is associated with solar plexus energy, which is your sense of self. So that's also tied into it. I think a lot of people overlook and think Leo, yes, Leo does
Hmm.
rule solar plexus, but so does Virgo in a way, right? It is the
Hmm.
guts, and your gut is your second brain, as they say, and your
Yes.
second heart as well. So but yeah, your sense of self and what you eat and what you're consuming is, yeah, tied to your sense of self-worth. Feeding yourself with higher quality things, and you can't say you love yourself but feeding yourself poisons day in and day out. Like, there's a deep subconscious programming there that's telling you, like, again, like, I'm just gonna say, yeah, like, if you're continuously feeding yourself poisons, there's a deep subconscious thing of wanting to kill yourself. Excuse
Yes.
me. Yeah, like,
Exactly. It is.
um, but yeah.
Yeah,
Anyways.
it's a program of I don't deserve to live. I don't deserve good things. I don't deserve, and I nullify all these statements for myself.
Yes. Same.
But definitely there's some deep, deep work, and it's really important to keep these things in mind during Virgo season. And of course, once we get into Scorpio season, which is in November, that's when all that super deep shadow work comes in, where it's really time to look at the parts of ourself that we are denying or not embracing or don't want to see. So yeah, I think that's a really great point, and I totally agree. Especially the solar plexus aspect of Virgo. I think that's so important because you're right. I think Leo does get more associated with the solar plexus because the solar plexus is meant to shine, you know, and it seems like when it comes to a stereotypical Leo of even, you know, what everyone would know is like, oh, okay, kind of a supercharged solar plexus, whereas Virgo, because of the self-deprecating and you know, this deep drive to serve others, again, the shadow aspect for against themselves, against for what's good for them, it can be kind of an underdeveloped solar plexus. So it's kind of like the Leo energy needs to learn how to tame the solar plexus in a way. Not that they shouldn't shine bright or anything, but to tame it in a way where they have the healthy ego, whereas Virgo, who's so focused on the other, of helping others, serving others, needs to develop that solar plexus for to have a healthy sense of self separate from other people.
Mm-hmm. And another thing too about the virgins, what is it, like, reproductive? The very first star about
Porma.
Forma, and how you said, remind me again, something about the.
So a lot of people who are natives to this, so if they have a placement, especially Sun, Moon, Ascension Point, or Venus, or even Mars, um, that they will find that their psychic abilities and their clairs, like clairaudience, clairvoyance, and so on, get turned on or heightened after they give childbirth.
Ah, okay, there it is. So the childbirth aspect and how Virgos are represented as virgins, right? Like the
Hmm.
mother giving birth, which she's not like a virgin,
Hmm.
to a baby that is, quote, a virgin, and the
Yeah.
aspect of purity as well. And the message I've been, getting, even personally within my own life as well, like the revelations that are coming through, is the purity of Virgo, right? Like how Virgos are seen as like pure and angelic and stuff like that. And, you know, the good girl or good boy mask that they
Hmm.
present, and that is overextending, overgiving, or wanting to be perceived as good or pure or a virgin or
Hmm.
angelic. And then that's when Scorpio season comes. It's like, oh, actually, I'm not that pure.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not that like great. And that's the
Yeah.
aspect of like humanizing yourself. Like, yes, like we can have, like, we are, you could see yourself as good, but then also realizing like you have made mistakes or you have done wrong. And that kind of like puts that into like perspective as well. So, anyways, just like Virgo, the purity, and then moving into Scorpio, it's like, yes, like the virgin aspect of it, but then it's just the sensual activations of Scorpionic season, and even Ophiuchus as well, of the
Hmm.
serpent and, right, the egg
Yeah,
and the sperm. Anyways, so.
exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. And that's such a great point. And I think, you know, purity culture isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think we just need to apply it to where it's needed, which is food, like literal the earth. Like we need pure soil. We need pure food. We need pure water and pure air. Like, the reason why purity culture, when it comes to like behavior and humanity and all this weird stuff, like it it's being directed at that because that's what people feel like they can control. When it's like we actually can control the larger things as well if we put certain policies into place, only allow certain people to access, or I should say, limit access to companies that are dumping and things like that. So, um, yeah, yeah, I think that's a really great point because if we apply that purity culture where it's needed, I think the world would definitely be a better place.
Hmm.
And Spica is also a sister star of Vindamatrix, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Um, and Vindamatrix is the star that is associated with the upward and downward spiral of ascension and descension. And so Spica is often the remedy star for whatever may ail us in Vindamatrix activations and alignments. So um, while Vindamatrix controls the energetic spiral of our choices, for example, if we're making quote unquote good choices, it spirals upward. If we're making, not so great choices, we're spiraling downward. Spica is the physical manifestation of how we are healing and making choices that are more aligned um, with the ascension rather than the descension. So, for example, if you're eating bread that's not healthy for you, once we get to Spica and you're realizing what it is, it can bring that natural remedy. So, for example, doing um, like a gut cleanse by starting your day off with, a spoonful of sauerkraut and doing things to clear your gut and doing cleanses and things like that. And then, of course, making better choices in the future because you learn that lesson. So Spica is definitely tied to a lot of lessons that Vindamatrix gets when it comes to utilizing our choices. Um,
Ooh,
because
interesting.
Spike, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say spica, like spiking you, right? Kind of spiking your blood sugar.
I never, okay.
So it could definitely spike you, right? That's the
I
energy of
love
spike.
that.
Like, boop.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's like a instantaneous up. I
Hmm.
I never caught that. That's really great. Thank you. I'm
Hmm.
just making some notes of some of the things that you're receiving. So thank you.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that's such a great point because again, a lot of and the thing is like carbohydrates are meant to spike your blood pressure to an extent. But when we have all these unnatural additives to bread, it's spiking your blood sugar in a completely terrible way. When you're just using actual wheat and flour and yeast and salt, it's going to be healthier because your body can digest it easier.
Oh, and
Whereas
another.
when,
Oh,
Mhm.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, no, go for it.
Another thing too, and it's something that we actually discussed recently as well, was the order of your food and how you eat it. And that's something that could
Yes.
be taken into account with Virgo season, right? Virgo, like the Excel sheet, the what is done first, like taking that and applying it. So eating your foods in specific order. So if people who do have blood sugar stuff, taking that into account so your blood sugar doesn't spike. Um,
That's a great point.
and yeah, because that's also really important. There's a lot that they do not teach us
Hmm.
in school, but that's
I know.
okay because like as adults we have to kind of take it into our own hands, and there's resources out there, and like us even planting those seeds for other people who are watching this to think like, okay, like let me go do that. um
Yes.
which
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. And for anyone who's wondering, the proper way to eat your food is fruits first, then vegetables, then meat, then carbs. Um, and it's so interesting because, you're talking about planting the seeds, and I'm getting this Virgo imagery because it's like, right, the fruit of the womb. So you're harvesting this fruit and you're eating the fruit, but most of the time you don't eat the seeds, right? You put the seeds back in the garden so that it can come back the next year. So there is this, again, it's the divinity of procreation that comes through Virgo, and it really exemplifies abundance codes that can also come through Porma as well, of like knowing that the earth is so abundant, it's always providing, there's so much, there's more than we could ever possibly need here, and it's constantly multiplying, which is really, really beautiful. And the energy of Spica has it holds the saying of like you reap what you sow. And that's how it's tied to Matrix as well, of like what you do comes back. So it's kind of a karmic star almost, I would say.
Hmm.
Um, so, make sure, listeners, as you're watching now, make sure you're taking the actions now that are representative of what you want in the future, that you want to be receiving. And some of you actually may be getting rewards in terms of the fruit of your labor at this time too, which is really exciting.
Hmm. Yeah, and that also reminds me of the rune Dagas. It's the harvest, it's the rune of harvest. So we are kind of in Daga season. Dagas literally just looks like this. Um, what you put out will, yeah, come back to you. It's a rune of karma as well. And I was just thinking about, doing the work now. So when Ophiuchus or Scorpio season comes, you're not bit or you're
Yeah.
not bit by your own stinger, right? Virgo is meant to fine tooth these inner workings of your subconscious mind so it doesn't feel so intense during the densest parts of the year. And I was getting this imagery, and every time we're talking about this, it always like pulls me back into when Earth was more like humans were more sustained through working with nature rather than against it, like before big supermarkets and whatnot. And you're like everything's just so abundant. But then obviously during different, depending on where you live and winter seasons, it could seem harsh, but your winters are determined of the work that you do during the summertime and the autumn time, right? That really determines
Hmm.
how, if you'll survive or not. And that could just be a metaphorical sense of like, okay, is winter going to be light and breezy or scarce because of what you did or didn't
Right.
do,
If you were
right?
lacking,
Yes.
slacking.
And then that's where the sense of community comes, right? As well, of working with community and like, hey, I have all these extra beats
Yeah,
and like it's like, oh well, I have bread, let's trade. So anyways, that's just something I wanted to share as well.
exactly. Yeah, I think that's super, super important. And we have the sun that's going to be lightly activating Surma here, I would say beginning around the 24th, 25th, 26th into the end of October. And Surma is associated with the hard-working aspect of Virgo, even to the point of self-sacrifice, which can also kind of be found in Spica, but it's more extreme in Surma. Surma is very tech oriented. It's correlated to areas in the service sector like electronics manufacturing, medical device technology, and how technology is currently connected to the healthcare system and health in general and like the current medical industry. So obviously the energetics of Surma have been corrupted a little bit because again, no device outside yourself is truly going to heal you, right? All healing is done within. And that's the true energetics of Virgo, of course. Um, but Surma also has an energy of like riding on coattails. So be mindful of anyone that's like trying to take credit of your work at this time, especially with the sun here. Something like that may come to light and be exposed. So pay attention to anything that comes out during that time of like, oh, this person, it's famous for doing this, but really it was this person. It's kind of like the Pythagorean theorem, how everyone associated, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Um, and the like everyone calls it the Pythagorean theorem, and everyone thought, oh, it's Pythagoras. But then I think it was like 2 years ago, they found out that someone like a couple thousand years ago had already written it, and they actually found the inscription and stuff. So it's like really, that kind of stuff can come through Surma. So some of it can be, you know, um, like people who maybe don't even want to take credit for their own work because they don't want to be in the spotlight. Again, it can be kind of that self-deprecating energy of Virgo, of like kind of keeping their head down or doing something that's great and letting their boss take the credit for it, kind of thing, or having a pen name or something like that can often come through Surma. Um, And interestingly enough, Zuby and I always notice this about Virgo, specifically Virgo men. They always look so youthful. So shout out to
Mhm.
the Virgo men. Y'all are delicious, okay? Like you look so fine, even into your 50s, 60s. And Surma is a star that's associated with this. So if you have a placement in activated by Surma or activating Surma, I should say, especially if it's the sun or ascension point or your chart ruler, you usually keep your youth about you. You age very slowly, and this star is also associated with having a very long life.
Yeah, I feel like Virgos just like age backwards, right? It's like they ripen over age. They actually reverse aging in a way, which is very interesting because as you were talking about Virgos and working really hard and being self-deprecating, I was getting like, oh, working with AI, like you don't have to work hard. Like there are tools now with AI and how you were saying, um, technology and whatnot. So this balancing act of uh working hard, but also there are tools out there. And then I guess the writing on the coattail is AI credits, you know. So like
That's a great point.
if you are working with AI, I think now you have to state if you work with AI or not, or if it's AI generated.
On Instagram now, yes, you have to. I'm not sure how much they enforce it or how much they scan for it, but yes, that is a new policy. And even YouTube now, they are getting rid of all AI generated, or you can't be monetized if it's AI generated content anymore, or if you just copy someone's content and show it. So, for example, videos that are like, oh, compilation of funniest things on
Oh,
YouTube, like you can't be monetized anymore.
yeah.
So it's really helping original creators.
Mm-hmm. And another thing too is understanding the balance between, yes, the healing is done inwards, but the medical tools and devices. So, for example, getting like a testing panel, right? That could show us like deeper on like, okay, what do I need to work on health wise? Is my
Yes.
testosterone low or high? Like, right, these are medical devices that are here to help us, not necessarily relying on it to heal us. So, getting these testings and stuff and getting these protocols done of a source outside of ourselves, then we could retain that information and move forward, right? Because we can intuitively feel our bodies, but then, like, there are devices that can, right, go into your stomach and see what's going on there. Like, are there parasites? Like, yes, you could intuitively feel if there aren't, but sometimes you do need to have a scan to understand like what you're really working with. So it's working incongruent with technology, but not solely relying on the medical devices or tools to help you. It's more so as a, hey, this is what you need. Okay, let me take it now into my own hands and go from there.
That is such an insightful perspective and helps me shift my belief systems about the medical industry, even. And I think that's a great point. It's about utilizing the technology that's there to help, but also to not be dependent upon it. That is a really,
Mm-hmm.
really great point.
Yeah, shout out to I forget his name. Oh man, his name is Chris. He helped me
Oh,
shift from that as well. He's like, it's good to get these protocols and then you could work from there because he's like, I can't fully, he's a health coach. He's like, I
hmm.
can't really help you unless I actually see the data. And once I see the data, we could come up with a protocol and move from there. So, yay.
Yeah, that's a great. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
And then we have the sun that is going to still be, it's outside of the constellation, but it's still associated with Virgo, and it's going to be in Virgo all the rest of the month for all of October, and it's going to be moving into the Virgo Libra void as we head into November. So let's talk about the full moon next. So we have a full moon that is going to be in Pisces on October 6th. At 11:46 p.m. All right, moon. So we have the full moon here in Pisces. It is going to be heavily activating Delta Pisceum here and even lightly activating Epsilon Pisceum. And so Delta Pisceum is associated with water and the way that it collects before it breaks through something. So picture like it breaking through a dam that's built by a beaver or, like wearing down a rock over time so that it, rushes through and then kind of turns into a waterfall or something like that. Or it's associated with the water after it, like a waterfall, and kind of, at the bottom of the waterfall, the water becomes still again, right? When you're kind of far away from it. So it can kind of go both ways. It's either still water that kind of explodes or breaks through something, or a surge of intense water that then becomes calm. So it's like a big shift in emotional energy. And also, interestingly enough, ant spirit comes from Delta Pisceum. So there's a lot of hive mind energies that emanate from that star as well. So pay attention if you're seeing any ants around this time. And then Epsilon Pisceum is a very interesting star. And again, it's only lightly activated, but it's still, I'm feeling the energy is prominent. It's connected to the concept of infinity and forever. So things that are kind of ineffable to most human minds. There's a lot of um, uh, how do I put, like, philosophical quandaries that can be found within this star. So if you ever really want to know, like, some people who meditate a lot or even perhaps use psychedelics or something, they claim like, okay, I understand infinite. I understand the infinite. I can feel it. Like, under truly embodying the concept, even if they can't feel it in their mind, they know it in their soul. So if you ever want to feel that type of energy, Epsilon Pisceum is a great star to connect to because it does hold that frequency. And so with this full moon, we can expect like a really intense release of emotional energy, or either the super intense emotional energy that we've been feeling for a long time may finally be coming to a calm. So it really could go both ways, which is exactly how Pisces is, right? One fish upstream, one fish downstream. You never really know. So it really depends on your emotional body and where you're at. So you'll have to let us know in the comments around the time, what are you feeling? Are you feeling things are coming to a calm, or are things really finally breaking through for you?
It can also be like subconscious things, right? Like finally it breaking through, bridging the subconscious and the subconscious mind, and finally integrating the two. Because, right, if we're using the analogy of the beaver dam, right, there has been like almost a barricade between the two and not really seeing exactly what needs to be integrated. And then finally that breaking through could be like an aha moment, potentially.
Yes, I totally understand. And I agree. Like the things that can be breakthrough, even the things from the subconscious mind, typically come through emotionally, I find. At least for me. Maybe that's just me because I have water. But things going from the subconscious to the conscious mind, I totally agree. Um, and the moon is, of course, going to be opposing the sun like every single new moon is. I'm sorry, full moon. Um, and the sun's going to be activating Porama and Theta Virginis during this time. So, we talked about both these energies, the Porama aspect of prophecy. So some people might have like a huge breakthrough physically of the energy of Delta Pisceum. Um, through psychic intuition, like third eye openings and things like that could be happening because that prophecy and psychic aspect of Porama. There's also actual, you know, water breaking through because of that, like Delta Pisceum water pressure plus the Porma procreation thing. So, if you're pregnant and expecting around this time, the full moon in Pisces might just cause your water to break. So, be prepared around that time, or maybe those who are birthing something into creation, this might be the time where that water breaks. Um, and there can also be some hive mind energies, being balanced out with the self-worth aspect of, Porma in regards to material abundance and access to financial resources, with Theta Virginis, which is, the aspect of like the infinite. So it holds those codes of, like again, infinite abundance. Like I'm worthy of infinite. I'm worthy of more than I could even fathom because infinite abundance exists. There's an infinite amount of everything that could ever be conceived here on this planet.
It could
At
also be
least
the
for the.
shift between
Mhm.
like I am worthy of abundance and then switching to I am abundance.
I like that. Hmm.
That way it's like deeper because you are part of the abundance. You are part of it. So
It's
therefore
true.
you are abundant. Um and there was something else I wanted to add about the prophecy stuff on the more shadowy aspect of it, being mindful of the collective hive mind prophecies that are trying to be pushed to the collective. We might be seeing something there that they're trying to prophesize.
Yeah,
And
like they just try to do that rapture thing that everyone was saying. It's just BS.
oh, I don't know about
Did you
that.
catch that? Oh, okay. It
No.
was all over Instagram and threads and stuff. Everyone was saying that the rapture was coming, I think on September 23rd or
Oh my
something. People were
god.
going
Okay.
nuts. People like sold their houses and got rid of everything, and it was just absolute nuts.
Hmm.
So that's the kind of energy. Like I feel like I saw a precursor of it already. It's a lot of downtrodden biblical brainwash shit that we see.
Yeah.
But sorry, continue.
Oh no, no, that's just all I wanted to say.
Mhm.
And then there was something about Virgo that I wanted to say in the beginning, and it kind of made its way around back now. Should I mention it now or should I mention it?
Well, I'll ask, does it have to do with anything relating to Spica? Because we're going to talk about the new moon next, and if it
Okay,
falls
maybe
better,
yeah, maybe in the new moon. Okay.
okay, okay. Just, I guess, jot it down so you don't forget or something.
Okay.
Um, I just want to say one last thing about this full moon of the balance. And we don't have any other aspects to the moon during this full moon. It's just the opposition to the sun. So it's very much plain text. Um, balancing the spiritual aspect of Pisces with the practical of Virgo. And the last thing that I want to say about this is, with Theta Virginis, which is, again, it's that practical mathematical energies that come through Virgo, it's being balanced by things that cannot mathematically be accounted for, like infinity, right? That come through Epsilon Pisceum. So, we use it in math as a continuum or use infinity as a boundary or lack of boundary in mathematics, but truly math can't conceptualize it because there's not enough space, right, in a computer program or on paper or however you're doing your math. So it's kind of a reminder that all of these models that we have of understanding our reality don't actually fully help us understand reality. And that's when we have to type in to tap into those Piscean things to actually find the answer, right? Like you can never fully understand infinity through math, right? You can get the concept, but you can't actually comprehend it. But through Piscean things, you actually could, whether it's divine revelation, meditation, and things of that nature. So I find that energy, it feels like a lot of people might be grappling with some ways that they've previously understood reality that are now shattered. Like the double slit experiment is a really great example of this, of like, we live in a world where Newtonian physics was taught to the masses and everyone thinks, oh, matter, that's what everything's created of. When it's like, actually, no, we know that things act as a wave particle until observed, and then it becomes solid, basically. And they recently redid the double slit experiment in a different way. I don't remember the exact findings, but I highly recommend everyone to Google it to see what like the new thing was because they changed it up a little bit. I don't know how it was being observed or whatever, but recommend checking that out. So yeah, Okay, let's talk about the new moon that's going to be happening. So the new moon is going to be in Virgo, of course, because we're in Virgo all month. During October, it's going to be October 21st and at 8:25 a.m. So early morning a.m. On the other side. There we go. So we have the new moon, and it is going to be activating Spica. Um, so again, it's the emphasis of like health, healing, herbalism, food as medicine, the witchy side of Virgo, all the bread stuff that we talked about. Zuby, do you want to share your thoughts here as it relates to this new moon?
Sure, yeah. So obviously, new moon energy, new energies, it's kind of like what needs to be filled or poured into it, right? Poured into your emotional body, whether it's health, obviously, it being spica that has to do with herbalism, this, that, and the third. But something I was contemplating today. So, for example, this guide that I have, the practical guide for realistic change, has kind of just in the back burner for quite some time. And I wanted to perfect it. I wanted to do this, that, and the third. And it took so long. And it was kind of in this, I was in my own way about it. And obviously, Virgo has to do with perfectionism. I created this during Virgo season 2 years ago.
Wow, was it really that long?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Okay.
And last Virgo season, I edited it. I added more things. I'm really glad that I did because I got more information about it. And then finally, come Virgo season, I heard like, oh, just drop it. Like, just whatever. And here I am going, oh, but I need to do this and I need to do that and I need to do. And that's that Virgo aspect of perfectionism. And even right before this, talking about it, it's just like, just do it, right? Just just do it. And I was thinking about why Virgos and perfectionism being stuck in the head. And Virgo's ruling planet is Mercury, and
Mhm.
Mercury has to do with air as well and the mind. So we can get so caught up in Virgo essence, right? Virgo is earth, which is comprised of earth, like solid, uh, water, air, right? That is earth. All the components you need also to grow stuff. Anyhow, and just being stuck in the head, and that has to do with the Mercury energy. Mercury is kind of like what keeps Virgo stuck in that perfectionism cycle of I don't want to do this because it has to look X, Y, and Z, and just being stuck in the head rather than the physical. But if you go back to the basics of Virgo, a seed does not overthink what do I need to grow, or it doesn't get stuck in the analysis. Like a plant grows, it just is. It doesn't question, it just is. So getting back to the basics of just do it and allow it to grow and allow the imperfection of it take place into perfectionism, because it won't be perfect until you take it in motion and then you see it in motion of what needs to be fine-tuned. That's the real way of perfecting something, is by consistently showing up, playing with it in the 3D, and then fine tuning it. If we get stuck in there, the process of in our heads, it's just going to be in our heads, not in the physical. So,
That's such a great point. And it's really after you start that growth or doing the thing that you notice actually what it may need and fine tune rather than getting in the paralysis analysis. Because, you know, I think a seed is a great example. If there's not enough heat, the seed won't germinate, period. So if it's not germinating, then you know, okay, I need more heat, I need more fire element. As it begins to grow, if it starts getting wilty, then you know, okay, I need more water elements. If it starts to yellow, then you know, okay, I need more earth element. I need to use a type of fertilizer and things like that. So, and of course, it also needs air, but right, that it just needs more carbon dioxide. But I don't think any plants have that issue right now. So,
yeah, but that's the thing though, is like obviously air is the element, but air is just the air. You don't control it. It's just
right.
it already is, and it's kind of like breathing, right? Like we don't think
Mhm.
about it as well, but then the aspect of being held in the mind, air being held, can cause a lot of different things. It could cause humidity, could cause stinkiness. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Um,
That reminds me of that movie we
yes.
did.
But yeah, I mean, overall, that's what I was just thinking of. And it's just the aspect of doing, don't overthink it and just do it. And I just did it. I was like, all right, I asked you for help. You helped me with it. And I was like, oh, I need to do this. I'm going to do it. And then just like, it just feels like so neutral now. Like, I don't feel like, oh my God. Now it's just like, okay, I did it. Great. I finally
Mhm.
did it. All right.
Yeah,
And then the next steps feels better because now you're creating neuro networks in your head now. Like, oh, I'm doing it. I finally did it. The next step is easier. The next step is easier. And then bigger projects is going to be like, okay, there's nothing. Your brain is now trained like, I can take the steps. I can do the things without being stuck in my head.
exactly. Because the head part, like central nervous system, is all that Gemini stuff. And it feels like Virgo is more the peripheral nervous system of really that information that started in the head that's actually being signaled to the body of like, yeah, I'm taking action, I'm doing the things, of really being in your body, like being present in your body is such a Virgo thing.
Yeah, I'm
So,
excited for yeah, this Virgo energy.
me too. Although with this new moon, we do have a couple squares to be aware of. So we have Jupiter that's going to be activating Al-Kirkab of Gemini here. And we're going to talk a lot more about Al-Kirkab when we get to Gemini, but it means that we have to overcome hurdles when it comes to keeping our fire fueled with air and earth through the Jupiterian expansion and perception shifts. So, unwillingness to see things from a different perspective will bring blockages through Jupiter here. We also have the new moon that's going to be square Pluto, that's in the Sagittarius Capricornus void still. And this is just indicating that the obstacles at this time are pushing us to evolve, to integrate the shadow, to do more shadow work, to break generational cycles, to heal multi-lifetime issues. So those two squares against squares can be a little bit difficult because it brings a lot of yeah, just hurdles that need to be overcome. But it's great because during these high energy times, it really shows you where those blockages and obstacles are so that you can focus on them. Because again, an obstacle is something to be overcome. A hurdle can be overcome. If it's a blockage, then you know you're not doing something correctly in order to overcome it. So that's how you can tell, is this something I need to work through, or is this something where I'm hitting a brick wall? And we also have a grand trine at this time between Jupiter at El Kirkab again, and then Mercury and Mars, which are going to be together in Libra. Mercury's activating Brachium, and Mars is going to be lightly activating Zubin el-Janubi at this time. And then also Saturn and Neptune. So we have a grand trine that's involving 5 planets. And it feels like this is the remedy, especially because it's Jupiter. So it's like, these shifts and the evolution that may be a little bit difficult that time through that square in Pluto and through the square in Jupiter. Jupiter holds the solution in this grand trine. Again, we have Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. Pisces is void energy. So if you're having difficulty with these Jupiterian necessities of this new moon, work with this trine to overcome any hurdle that you may have. So through Mercury and Mars, make sure that your words are aligning with your actions, especially in the lens of using executive functioning and reading between the lines, which we'll get a little bit more into the energetics of those stars. This is just a brief synopsis, and through the restrictive discipline of Saturn and the imaginative multi-dimensional gifts of Neptune and the ineffable infinite abyss that is the Pisces Cetus void. So even though having the new moon squaring Jupiter and Pluto can be a little bit difficult, literally the solution is right there in that grand trine.
And part of it could just be before making uh verbal commitments or vocalizing verbal things, maybe seeking psychic foresight beforehand before making that decision. I know that's something I just did personally as well. There was two timelines playing out and then going from there. So maybe just sitting with it psychically, intuitively, whether it's through meditation or obviously seeking psychic counsel through a reading with either of us or your trusted psychics. And then making that decision and vocalizing, okay, now that I know, this is what I'm going to do, and then do
Yeah,
it.
that's a really great point. And actually, we're going to be talking about a star that is literally associated with using divination, astrology, and psychic services to do that. It's Zubin al-Shamali, which we'll talk about momentarily. But yeah, that's a really, really great point. And so we have Mercury starting off October. It is, of course, in Virgo. We have it here. It's activating Spica, and it's going to continue to activate Spica until around the 4th, I would say. And again, it's that natural remedy star. So health is going to be emphasized at that time, especially because it's Mercury, mental health. Mercury is at home in Virgo. So again, it feels a lot of being at home in your body, not getting stuck in your head. And part of healing mental health is being present in the body. And I think you'll find that a lot of what is coming out in like the therapy community and things like that is really just coming back to your body. Like, where do you feel that in your body, right? People are like, oh, I'm depressed. It means there's a chemical imbalance in my brain, which there's zero evidence to support that whatsoever. They're not chemical imbalances in the brain whatsoever. And it's like, well, where do you feel that sadness? Do you feel it in your heart? Do you feel it in your stomach? Does your whole body feel numb? It's really returning to your body and seeing where this trauma and stuff is, stored in the body so that you can release it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, very interesting. Yes, and also somatic practices might also be a thing. There are going to be, it really depends on what level each person collectively do they need to find the source of why. A lot of people know why, but they're just stuck in the why. And at that point, like, you don't have to know why, you just have to release it, right? So there's different
Mhm.
levels to it, and part of it is somatic practices. Even if you have gotten over it or you've done the work, it could just still be in the body, and the somatic being present in the body and doing releases might help. But there is something interesting in tying to health. How you're saying the chemical imbalance in the brain, that's not true, but it could just be a hormonal imbalance in the
Yes.
body that needs to be healed through health. Because what you're probably feeling is just dopamine, uh, fried dopamine receptors of getting your
Yeah.
dopamine hit all the time through social media or
Yeah.
whatever it might be. So maybe like different things. So it just might be like a hormone imbalance or blood sugar stuff or stomach
Mhm.
things, serotonin in the belly.
Right.
And
Parasites, even.
yeah.
It can be so many different things. And of course, it is good to have these health analyses so that you can see what's going on and do physical remedies and things like that. But also when it comes to some of this trauma work, getting energy sessions and energy healing and having an energy worker who can, see, okay, this is the traumatic memory that's looping in this organ or in this cellular system. So, that's stuff that Zuby and I both do if you are interested in that kind of work. She does the energy work, I look into it, but she can look into it as well. Um, so yeah, highly recommend doing the physical and the energetic work at this time. It really can be beneficial. And so we have Mercury that's going to be in Virgo for quite some time. It's going to move into the Virgo Libra void around like 12th, 13th. And it's going to be activating Zubin al-Janubi. And it's going to be meeting up with Mars as well. This is around the time that Mars is also highly activating Zubin al-Janubi, which we'll talk about. But Mars is going to be peaking the Zubin al-Janubi energy on the 15th, 16th, even 17th and 18th. Um, and so I told Zuby before we did the podcast that, when we get into the Libra stars, after we talk about the four that we're going to be talking about, I'm going to ask her if she knows which star is activated in my chart. So um, I'm curious what you'll say. So just know I'm going to be asking that, everybody. Okay. Um, so Zubin al-Janubi is known for very persuasive energy. So it's known for influence and being influenced. And, with the planet of communication here, Mercury, that is definitely going to be heightened when it comes to, the way people are talking and things like that. It's associated with data that comes with a meaning, or a push behind it. So currently, it can be connected to areas of life like marketing and politics. So around this time, really pay attention to what narrative is being pushed or how people are trying to be persuaded, but also if you need to do some persuading for anything, maybe you at work, you want a raise and you want to persuade your boss. This is a great time to do that because you're aligning with the stars. And with Mercury here at Zubin al-Janubi, it also brings a lot of good listener energy into our lives. So it inspires us to listen to what people are saying, to reach conclusions. And this star is closely connected again to like marketing and things like that. So there can be this energy that comes from this star of taking the information from certain conversations or, listening to what's being said and then using the conclusions that you come to be able to monetize something or capitalize upon it. So it's a really great wealth star when it comes to Libra energy or being able to apply information in order to create wealth. And it's also known for being able to assess information and metadata and also of being able to see what's not being said. So there can be like reading between the lines in order to gain more context, in order to gain the full context. So with Mercury here, there's definitely some mind shift energy happening. Information is going to be very, very abundant of what is being said and also what's not being said. So um, this is a very perceptive and intuitive star of Libra. The lowest vibration of this star has ties to surveillance programs, specifically those that are utilized to increase profit. So, for example, um, apps that are, collecting your data and then profiting off of it in some sort of way. So, there is a little bit of corruption in the shadow of this star, but thankfully, Pluto's doing a lot to shut that down through Altair. So thank you, Pluto, for doing that. Um, and in general, Zubin al-Janubi is associated with our own internal yin energy that is mirrored in external yang energy, or yang energy, I should say. Everyone always says yin yang, but it's yin yang. I just always feel weird saying yang because everyone says yang, but yeah, it's yang. Any thoughts on that, or should I just continue?
Um, very okay. So, were those just the two stars?
That was just Zubin al-Janubi.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess it talks more about like, yeah, just being an active listener, like listening and then responding. So it's
Hmm.
like in order to know how to respond, you need to actively be listening. And part of listening is also body language, right? Like the intuitive nature of it. Like, how are they feeling? Are they closed off? Are they open? And yeah, just utilizing it, I guess, to your own personal advantage or also understanding how that's being done. And there's something about cookies, obviously, like,
Cookies?
yeah, like
Oh, yeah,
cookies.
like cookies.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, like tracking cookies.
Yeah.
Okay, uh-huh. Um, that's funny. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, well, Libra's got the cookies, that's for sure. Then we have Mercury is going to be aligned with Zubin al-Shemi, on October 20th. That's this star up here. And Zubin al-Shemi is very interesting. It's a green star. It's like very rare in a celestial sense because it's the only known star to appear green from Earth, which is super, super interesting. So, because of this, it holds a very unique and remarkable energy. And this alignment can bring the need for seclusion in order to make balanced decisions. So, because Mercury is there, you may want to like take a mental health break, kind of, maybe being off your phone or being by yourself for a while, because this star is very spiritual. It helps us with our intuition and psychic power for decision making. So, Zuby, as you were talking about, getting psychic foresight on things, and it is really helpful. Zuby and I do it all the time before we make decisions. Like, okay, if I decide to do this, what will the timeline look like? If I decide to not do that, what does the timeline look like? And then you just choose what timeline looks better. I mean, obviously, you can't do that for every decision in your life because that might be a little bit nutty. But when you're making bigger decisions, it's so important because you can just see what happens and then make an informed decision. And this star, Zubin al-Shemi, is known for using divination, for using divinatory practices or astrological analysis to make informed decision. So, highly recommend at this time to do that, to get some sort of psychic service or to do it yourself if you know how to use divination tools.
What
Around
date is that?
This is October 20th.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, everyone mark your calendars. And Zubin al-Shemi, or I'm sorry, al-Shamali also brings good fortune. So this star is known for riches, very strong financial power. This star like always covers the tab, so to speak. It holds these abundance codes of always having enough and also taking care of others. And it also stimulates very sharp mental energy with that high intellect of Mercury here. So very, very interesting time. I would also recommend to communicate and speak a lot of abundance codes around this time because that will help them materialize. And do you have any comments on that, Zuby, or should I keep going?
Is that like right at the tippy top of
Yes.
the yeah, that could also just be the void space, right? Like being in total neutrality, right? Like having to come to a 0 point before weighing the scales. And that's where like the seclusion comes in from
Hmm.
because you have to go there. And then part of Joe Dispenza thing is like going into the void space, like just being, and that's that infinite abundance. And then once you're at that place, you could speak what you want into existence. That's that quantum level leaping. So it could just also be associated with that and the wealth, right? If you're trying to be in that neutral state, become nothing in the infinite void, then speaking into existence wealth codes, then there you go.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really great point because it is a neutral point in Libra. And again, it's not taking a stance on things. Again, the way that this star is known for making decisions is using divination, using psychic tools to look at it kind of from a third party perspective, right? It's like, oh, I may feel this way, my friend's saying this or whatever, but it's like tap into the psychic aspect and actually see it for what it is so that you can actually make an informed decision no matter how you feel, no matter what you think, no matter what other people say. And we have Mars and Mercury. They're going to be traveling together for quite some time. We have a light activation of brachium here, and around like the 21st to the 24th, I would say. Um, and Brachium is a bridge star, so it actually links Scorpius energy and Libra energy energetically. So it helps balance extremes. So it can kind of be likened to the Temperance card in tarot for those of you who are familiar with the major arcana, It's about taking the temperate route, the middle approach, not getting too hot, not getting too cold, which of course Scorpius is known for the extremes. And Libra is all about the balance. So this star actually holds codes of both. It's the middle approach that Libra is known for. And the interesting thing about the star, it isn't based on being a neutral entity, though. Brachium's not. Rather, this Libra energy can take the extremes of Scorpius and bring balance to them to guide them to a neutral point. It's not about being neutral, it's about taking both the extremes and becoming neutral, if that makes sense. So this is very tough work. It's a star that holds like really amazing energy when it comes to like compromise, mediation, neutralizing any sort of threat or whatever it may be, because it's able to, it's not neutral in its essence. It holds extremes and becomes neutral for holding those extremes. And so with Mercury and Mars here that are activating brachium, it's a really great time to discuss things that may be going to extremes in order to find a middle point and take action towards them in a more balanced way. The shadow aspects of this star is of the yin polarity. So shadow aspects of brachium can be the fear of receiving, it can be defenselessness, helplessness. And with Mars here, there might be more yang out of balance, and the shadow aspects of that can materialize as controlling others or the belief that life is a struggle. So pay attention if any of those themes come up for you around this time with the Mercury Mars conjunction, um, activating brachium around this time because that's where it's coming from. So, um, yeah. Any thoughts on
Yeah,
that?
I
Or should
mean,
I continue?
yeah, it's just like the pendulum, right? It's just like, oh, the extreme of one side, the extreme of other. It's like to understand how you could be neutral is understanding the polarizing opposites, right? To then come into a neutral stance. But yeah, that's pretty much
Totally agree.
it.
And then we have Mercury moving out of Libra into the Libra Scorpius void, and it's going to be activating Desheba at the end of October into November. Definitely peaking around the 30th, 31st, and the 1st of November. So, our first Scorpius star that we're going to talk about in season two, Desheba. And so, this star is known for being born in the underworld. It has very intense darkness. It's connected to the void, and there's a lot of space that needs to be filled there in that void. And it's through hard work and delving deep into the shadow realms in order for to bring back light, basically. Like this star has an energy of light being dimmed, and it's because it's so deep in the underworld. And so you really have to dive into these lower realms in order to get rid of that like fog that's there. And Desheba ruled by Saturn. So that's that hard work energy that needs to go into it. But some things about this star are time dependent. So when it comes to the work necessary to fully access the power of this star, some things are based on temporal aspects. So it's not all work that you can do at one time. And with Mercury here, there can be some, uncovering uncomfortable information, perhaps about ourselves. It can bring a bit of darkness to the mental health realm that requires shadow work in order to clear. The more advanced energetics of this star are extremely psychic. So this star is connected to the crown chakra. It has a penchant for research and investigating hidden and secret things. So for those who have their psychic senses and gifts attuned, you can expect some interesting information to be unearthed by Mercury at this time. But all of that like super intense psychic Claire's fully turned on energy that can come through Scorpius, that is Desheba for sure. So like Mercury setting the tone for as we head into November, that's when the darkness starts to come. It comes through Mercury first. And again, darkness isn't bad or anything to fear or anything like that. But it does point to what still needs to be integrated.
Yeah, and darkness, right? That's when other senses come activated on online. When you're right, the light isn't there, so therefore your sight, right? And then the true sight is activated because your other senses are heightened. And that could be a sense of scariness because the other senses are heightened. You're more receptive to feel things, and it's not necessarily bad. It's just your body's trying to process the information. And if it doesn't know, the unknown can be perceived as scary, but it shouldn't be scary. It's just a new sense being activated. You don't know it yet. So it's you're trying to make sense of it because your other senses are activated.
That's a very astute analysis. I love that. Yeah, that energy definitely comes through to Sheba.
Ooh. And if you guys haven't already, go watch Chaos on Netflix.
Ah, yes. Yeah. Chaos, spelled Kaos. Highly recommend it. It got taken off Netflix because it told too much truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was
Mm-hmm.
number one, and they said it didn't get enough views, but it was number one for weeks, so I don't know how that could possibly be.
Yeah.
But highly recommend it.
Yeah, just when you're saying like it was born in the underworld, it just reminded me of like
Yeah.
Greek mythos and then chaos. So
Yes, definitely. Yeah, people who have Desheba in their chart, in their chart, in their chart, they definitely have so much darkness that they need to get through in their life. It's definitely not easy. So anyone who's a native, if you have that in your chart, holla in the comments. I can totally sympathize and empathize with you there. So we have Venus that is starting out in Leo, bringing up the rear. Thank you, Venus. So Venus is going to be activating Sigma Leonis around the second, peaking on the third, fourth, fifth, and then moving into the Leo Virgo void. So, when it's activating Sigma Leonis, it's a very hot time. As many of you may know, we're still experience for those who are in deciduous forests. So people who have 4 months, or I'm sorry, 4 seasons. Um, it's still hot. It's still warm, and that's because of Sigma Leonis activations. When you align with the true sky, you not only align with your true self, but you align with true weather patterns too. So having, this extra heat at the end is not crazy. It's still harvest season all month. We should be, the harvest should be safe from frost for the month. But regardless, with Sigma Leonis, it's a very hot time. Sigma Leonis is associated with extreme heat and passion. So with Venus here, it could be a very sultry, sexy time. Okay, so take advantage of that if you wish. And then we have Venus leaving the Leo Virgo void, going into Virgo, and is going to be activating Zavajava around the 9th, peaking on the 10th, 11th, and still activating on the 12th. And Zavajava, we talked a lot about this in our last 2 transit episodes, but this is a star associated with danger, being backed into a corner, even things like assault and rape and things of that nature. So, you know, with the Star of Love there, pay attention. Do not ignore any red flags that pop up in relationships. Notice things that are dangerous, whether it's actions, mindsets, words, because they can really point to larger issues here. Okay, Zavajava activations usually materialize as like sirens, warning signs, gut feelings. So please do not ignore these, especially with the planet of love here. If you are in the dating site or already in a relationship and you're starting to notice things, even if they're small, don't ignore them, because Zavajava's whole thing is to protect. It's not always a pleasant aspect to protect, like well, I won't go into the details. If you want to learn more about the star, you can watch the transit episode from for September or October. But Zavajava is all about protecting innocence, protecting purity, and things like that. And of course, we talked about that being applied to soil and water and all those good things. But in the lens of Zavajava, it's really protecting humans who need protection. And so the point of these warning signs and signals is to make sure that you're recognizing it before something harmful actually occurs. But again, the super dark shadow aspect are things like assault. So definitely, um, you know, stay vigilant.
Yeah, especially like the sultry time to that, the over like feeling
That
yourself,
it's yeah.
huh?
I was gonna say that's like before.
Yeah, I know, like
So yeah,
before, like you're
uh-huh.
feeling yourself, you're putting yourself, not like to put fear into like being in that essence, but it's just like when you're feeling yourself and you're hot and you're exuding
Mm-hmm.
lights, right? It kind of
Mm-hmm.
can sometimes, not always, attract moths to a flame. So just being mindful of that. Not to say like that's going to happen. It's just, it's very interesting. It's from that to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially through the lens of Venus. So just be very, very mindful here. And then on October 13th, we have an interesting alignment with 31 Coma Berenices here, which is our North Galactic pole. So with Venus aligned at the North Galactic Pole, it assists us in having a very clear galactic view of things. So it helps us zoom out. This star is connected to Alpha Sculptoris in terms of how we create our reality. And with Venus aligned here, it's bound to help us see the larger picture and galactic view of relationships, soulmates, love, luxury. So again, this is a big zoomed out. This is multi-lifetime. This is galactic level stuff. And this star specifically helps wake up our crown chakra. So a lot of people may have crown chakra activations. It's also associated with the North Node, so it can wake up North Node activations with Venus here. It can be, causing some soul expansion in love and personal relationships, those kind of departments. And Venus, which is the feminine polarity planet, is aligned with this, and the North Galactic Pole holds the negative, which is the yin polarity on a galactic level. So this is like a very yin time, like super yin is how I want to describe it.
It's very interesting because like going from the hot, sexy to the being mindful, it could just be also like through the lens of Venus of like feeling yourself, putting yourself out there, but then attracting things that could just be a warning. Again, like
Wow, and my
familiar.
alarm just went off right when
Oh,
you
wow.
said that. I don't know if you can hear it, but
No. I can't, but yeah. I mean, it's
okay,
just,
yeah.
yeah, like the sirens of like red flags and stuff. It's like, oh, this person's different, but the energy feels the same of previous relationships that you've been through. And then when you recognize it immediately and you shoo it away, you're telling the universe, like, okay, I learned this lesson. And then you're moving forward and graduating into a more like unity, like high level soul mate relationship or divine counterpart through understanding like I'm protecting myself. Not everybody can or should have access to this hotness of yours.
Yes, exactly. Or just like your love in general. Um, the hot aspect aside, right? Because like love is not just romance, it's also friends and family and acquaintances, strangers, clients, all this sort of stuff. So, yeah, just putting better boundaries after seeing anything that may be a red flag. And the very next day on the 14th, we have Venus aligned at super galactic center, M87. So this can be a time where things can feel all consuming. A lot of gut stuff may come up. So make sure you're honoring your GI tract at this time. The supergalactic center is a black hole. So try to avoid any black hole technology, any inversion principles that may be fueled by black hole technology. So be very mindful. And if anything comes in your astral space and tells you to go through a black hole, don't do it. Don't do it.
I wonder if CERN might be doing something.
We'll have to check it out. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. And also like consumption, right? You know how like gut stuff could just be like, oh, for some people, like the stomach is like a black hole. Like overconsumption of
Oh,
eating, drinking,
mm-hmm.
whatever it might be, just the feeling like the never ending black hole
Mm-hmm.
of that.
Yes, I totally agree. And that can be part of that GI tract stuff that comes in. So, it's like you have to be honoring your gut by not overfilling it. Absolutely. And then we have Venus moving and is going to be activating Zanaya around 15th, peaking 16th, 17th, and even into the 18th. So we talked a lot about this star again on the past two episodes. So you may want to revisit those if you want to learn more about it. But with Venus here, there's a lot more of the feminine aspect of this star that's highlighted. So unfortunately, Zanaya is one of those stars that has a lot of distortions. So it has a lot of distorted feminine energy that can come through. So while Venus is activating it, we have the opportunity to actively recode this. So some of the distortion fields that come through are exploiting sexuality in order to get what you want, specifically money or information. So if you recall the last episodes that we talked about this star, it's the one that's associated with things like espionage, secret covert operations, that type of energy, informants, things that are not documented or things that are off the record. um, so that's where that can come in. It's also associated with SW and adultery. So around this time, reclaim sacred sex. And of course, you can use sexuality in a healthy way without exploiting it. So um, there's a lot of recoding that we have the ability to do through Venus with that activation. Oop, oop. Wow, that went fast. I
And that was
clicked the wrong button.
October 15th.
That was, let's see. I think that was, okay, there we go. It is like 15th, but peaking 16th and 17th, and even into the 18th. So it's right around that time, and it's right after those super intense days where we have the North Galactic Pole and Super Galactic Center alignments, like bing, bing, boom. That's definitely a power day, power portal, I'll call it. Um, and then we have Venus that's going to be activating Porama around 20th, 21st, 22nd, maybe even 23rd. All activations can be plus or minus a day. Um, and we talked a lot about Porama holding that energy of the connection between self-worth and material resources. So this will be heavily emphasized in terms of the feminine energy or the yin end of the spectrum. There's also, those prophetic things that can come through Porama, and you can expect that in regards to, love, luxury, relationships, hobbies, all that stuff that comes through Venus. But we also have on the 22nd, Venus is exactly aligned with Matrix. So I did mention that we'll talk about Matrix, and that's the star that's the sister star to Spica. So I have a little graphic that I want to pull up for this. Or not a little graphic. I heard that you should never say like little this because then you're minimizing its impact. So I've been trying to change my language to get rid of little in describing something. Like I read like, oh, if someone says like, oh, your little business or your little blah 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 blah, like they're trying to downplay things. I was like, yeah, that's a good point. Um, all right, so Matrix, which I kind of already talked about before, but it's the star that is correlated to the superstring web of reality that is created by our choices. And, the larger matrix of the choices of everything and everyone, right? It's like the totality of all. How the divine matrix is created comes through the matrix. And so this star emphasizes our personal points, our personal choices that either help us ascend or is cause for descension. So because of this, it's naturally connected to one's ascension point in your chart and your descension point within your natal chart. So you can use your personal natal chart to gauge your own energy to see if you're ascending or descending based on the choices that you're making. And so these choice points, which is happening in every single choice we do, like for me, am I raising my arm or not? If you get down to the nitty gritty, super string aspect of it. But these choice points help us either anchor utopian timelines through ascension codes, or they anchor dystopian timelines through descension codes. And of course, that is on a personal level of our own personal utopian or dystopian timelines. But when it comes to the greater web of reality that we're co-creating together with the universe and everybody else here, that it's definitely bigger and more noticeable on that scale. Because you can be on your own personal utopian timeline while the collective is still kind of in a dystopia. Um, but anyway, so again, Matrix is ultimately a star of empowerment. It allows us to use our free will to weave the reality of our own making. And of course, like you can really only control your own timeline as a creator. You're responsible for yourself. So it's your choices of anchoring your personal utopian timeline that is so important. And by doing that, you can help other people realize they can do it for themselves. You can't force anyone onto their own personal utopian timeline. You can only do it for yourself and inspire others. So it is a star of personal responsibility and a star of free will. And this star is also associated with the fall, I guess we can call it. The curse of Yahweh is held within this star, also known as the 666 seal, where the original angelic human template was maimed by cutting off of our wings. And this star is particularly associated with the right wing of the original angelic human template and is also connected to the right arm and shoulder blade of the 3D physical human body. And I find this very interesting, and I recommended Zuby's healing sessions at the beginning of this episode because as I was breaking through this seal, which is on all of humanity, you have to do your individual work to pop through this seal. I was getting energy work from her remotely. I was visiting my mom, and she was doing energy work on me. And I saw this like entity come. It scared the living daylights out of me. And which I just told it needed to leave and cleared it and all that. But I was feeling the energy work and I saw my wing pop out. And then after the session was out of my shoulder blade, which is where I had a lot of pain. And I asked Zuby like what she saw, and she said that she saw a wing and I think like white butterflies came out of it as well. And then I did like within a couple days, I did a stretch and had her push on that exact spot in my shoulder blade. And it like literally there was a pop and it's like I felt my wing come out and now like my chronic pain is gone. So just a little testimony of like a very specific example of that and how that energy work can really help support the physical body. Um, and getting rid of that 666 seal out of your light body so that your wings can fully come online and you can hold that angelic template is really important, especially if you're an energy worker. Because Matrix, like the lowest vibrations of this star, also contain mind control systems like Eye of Yahweh, Eye of Jehovah, Eye of Horus, all that bullshit religious mind control mechanisms that push narratives of like needing to be saved, by an outside source or redemption and those flavors of like downtrodden manipulation and helplessness, hopelessness, victim mentality kind of thing. Um, so, and again, it is associated with the pain within shoulder blades. That's how it can materialize a lot of the time because it's resonant of the excruciating agony of having your wings cut from your light body. So until you're able to fully turn that back on, it can be very, very painful. Um, and additionally, Matrix energy can bring fetishizing pain in an attempt to transmute pain to pleasure, like through things like bondage, dominance, sadism, masochism. It can manifest as a lot of distorted sexual energy in general. So pay attention to anything that might want to be distorted that way, and anything that may be viewing as like, oh, this is pleasure, but it's actually hurting you. I think an example that we've talked about a lot in this episode is eating things that are unhealthy for you that have literal poisons in them. It's kind of like, oh, self-care day, let me eat all this junk food. It's like, that's not self-care, that's self-harm. No matter how you want to put it, it's self-harm. Self-care is never going to be poisoning yourself, ever. So that's the kind of energy that can come through Matrix. So pay attention to that. But back to sort of like the web weaving aspect, as a web weaving star, um, Matrix is associated with spider spirit. So pay attention if you see any spiders or at this time. And it has connections to the lowest emanations of Scorpius's death and rebirth mechanism. So it is connected to Scorpius through spider spirit. And through spider spirit energy, Matrix can bring some of the lower, darker shadow aspects of spider spirit, which is like fear, misunderstanding, trying to look scary on purpose in order to keep people away from you, to enforce a notion of like, oh, nobody loves me, no one wants to be around me, kind of thing. And traps and things like that, right? It's like traps for other people or even traps for yourself. But also the higher vibe can be like hyper awareness, calculated obtaining your desires, and also the ability to multitask. So pay attention to what sort of energies of spider spirit are coming through Matrix at this time. And it's interesting because a lot of people are going to be thinking, oh, it's Scorpio season around this time, but it's like, no, it's freaking not. This is Matrix energy. And another way that this star can materialize is through things that are fractal in nature, and that kind of ties into the web weaving. So it brings symbolism of like branch patterns, webs, interconnectedness. So pay attention how that kind of shows up for you at this time as well. Any thoughts on Matrix, Zuby?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, obviously, like every decision you make, like creates fractals. And like with that one decision, it's not just like, okay, you're splitting timelines. It's like, okay, you made that. And then there's also like little mini energies being pushed out. And then within that big decision, it's like micro. So that's where like the weaving kind of takes in place through the level of details, obviously.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, there are some beliefs, I guess I'll say, from what I have experienced from the universal time matrix, it is a fact, but I'm also open to the possibility that it's not, but that all timelines exist simultaneously, so that you can actually look into timelines even if they haven't come to fruition in the reality stream of consciousness that you're experiencing. But it's like knowing that they all exist, and the free will is you sort of as the navigator of moving through these fractals and choosing your branch points and choosing your fractals through that divine web.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, it's just like the void space, the infinite, and then figuring out where you want to go. Like
Exactly.
a
How
very
you,
quantum
yes.
web.
Yes, exactly. And that's one of my favorite things that I do with my readings too, is like, where do you want to be? Where do you want to get? What's your goal? And let's work backwards. So, okay, we have Venus that is going to be moving. It's going to be activating this Theta Virginis around 26, peaking 27th, 28th, and even into the 29th. And again, that's that analytical, data-driven star. So with Venus here, it's kind of a weird energy. Venus isn't really particularly known for those kinds of energies. So I'm curious myself how it kind of is going to materialize. But as the planet of love here, there may be like a new way to love like new organizational structures or loving financial analysis or loving math, and people who already really love these things or and like use them in a heart-led hobby or business. This is going to be a really great time for you. So let us know how this activation is for you because I'm also very curious. And of course, we have Venus that's going to be in Virgo for the rest of um, October and activating Spica around the end, but we'll wait for that to the next episode since it's going to be more prominent.
It could also just be through the lens of whatever has some people, it's like obviously the really extreme of being very calculated in love, or maybe like
Mm.
doing like pros and cons lists and like literally just doing it like point by point, exactly down to like the number. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, that reminds me of like Jack Donaghy's heart system.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because um I just saw something on Threads that said if you have to make a pros and cons list about your romantic relationship, just break up. And I think that's a really great point. Like if you aren't 100% in it, it's like then there's something better, like good Lord. Um, but yeah, I think that's a really great point of being calculated in love and kind of looking, being careful of the more shadow aspects of people who might be trying to manipulate you on purpose into whatever it may be.
Yeah, I was talking in a more literal sense. I like calculating like
Uh-huh. Yeah.
points. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Which I've actually seen someone, now that I'm thinking about it, I think it was on Instagram. They created a spreadsheet of everyone they were dating and gave them a like score based on like what they wore, if they were like what time they showed up, what they ordered and things like that. It was a girl too. She had to have been a Virgo. I just
Hey,
thought it
her
was
placement might be like that specific.
yeah, I think that's a really great example. All right, and then moving on to Mars, we have Mars that is in Virgo, going to be moving into the Virgo Libra void space at the beginning of October. Again, it's activating Zubin al-Janubi around 10th, 11th, peaking around the 12th, 13th, 14th. And again, that's the time that around that Mercury is going to be activating that as well. And so, while it's commingling with Mercury, we kind of already discussed that energy, but um, again, Zubin al-Janubi is known for very persuasive energy. So it's known for, influence, being influenced. So with the Martian influence here, it can be a little bit more on the aggressive side. You need to be careful of using anger as a manipulation tactic. It is associated with politics, so pay attention to like anger inducing things at this time or better yet, don't pay attention to them. There could be some anger that is being pushed in the collective in order to believe a certain narrative, think a certain way, persuade you into something. And again, this is also the star of listening. So listen to what's being said, draw your conclusions, but also listen to what's not being said, right? It's really getting all of the data possible so that you can really reach a conclusion that's important. And again, like the dark side of this star can be those surveillance programs. So there could be a lot of anger about surveillance programs or something along those lines. But again, trust that Pluto is doing what is necessary to shut that shit down. Okay.
It could also be a very great time for influencers if you're trying to be
Yeah.
an influencer and creating like very polarizing content, something that gets people angry at that time if you want to become an influencer. Just like post something that would that would make people angry.
Yes, that's a great point, especially because, again, this is the star that also takes that data of how they reach a conclusion and is able to market it, monetize it, capitalize upon it. So if you are going to do that kind of marketing, highly recommend to have like an affiliate link or something so that you can really make money off of whatever this is. So good luck to everyone who's pissing people off to do the good work.
It's like, oh, this party's doing that. Order this.
ordered this hat that says F them. Yeah, exactly. That's totally, totally, totally the vibe. And kind of to go off the ecliptic for a little bit, we have Mars that's going to be moving through Libra, and on the 24th, it's aligned with Unucal High here in Serpents. And I like to highlight this because personally I love Unucal High. It has a lot of Hawaiian codes in it. Um, but this star specifically is a star of recognizing cycles. So it helps us ascend or transcend reptilian frequencies through the Ophiuchian energies. It also holds codes of immortality. So anyone who is interested in immortality, some information can come through Unucal High for you. And it's connected to the Scorpius emanation of snake spirit. So again, even though we're not anywhere close to Scorpio season yet, there's still so much Scorpius energy that comes through these other signs all the way to Virgo. The Matrix, Unucal High, Brachium. Um, and so this star can bring a lot of knowledge, healing energy, being able to shed your skin. And also with Scorpius energy that's in Unucal High, with the co-ruler of Scorpius, Mars, is there. It's going to be a little bit more of the aggressive energy, but also very more driven, more direct. It's like you can really see things through and be action oriented to do this type of work. And you just need to make sure that it's not action that's self-sabotaging, kind of the snake eating its own tail kind of thing. The low vibe of this star is misuse of sacred knowledge, abuse of power. So pay attention to anything that might be happening with that with Mars. And even though Unuka High is definitely more feminine, it's connected to more of the yin aspect of healing. It's like a star that's really known for that are good for like doctors, healers, um, but because Mars is there, it's a really nice alchemical blend of both yin and yang energy. Um, so it's really important to take aligned action on that day, especially when it comes to like healing or any cycles that you are intending to break or begin. Right now, all cycles are bad, right? If you're in a cycle of eating healthy, that's a cycle you want to stay in. Um, so just like pay attention to that and this star specifically through it we are able to see light clearly. So false light can't exist there. So it's kind of like the distortion of like love and light only kind of thing like cannot exist on Unucal High. So with Mars there, this can cause some anger if like false light appears or people are really going to see false light as false light and like see the real light through that false light of noticing what that distortion is. So really interesting energy around this time to pay attention to.
And perfect time to break habits by making new ones.
Yes, it is.
Get the
Practical
practical
guide
guide
to
for
realistic
realistic change.
change. Yeah, it is awesome. And then we have Mars that's going to be activating lightly Zubin Elecrab around the end, like all the way to the end of um the end of October and like around the 28th through the remainder of October. And excuse me, let me drink some water. Zubin El Crab is really known for getting to the point and being a very strong truth teller, even if their delivery is very abrasive. So with Mars activating this, expect that things can be a little bit harsh or even agitating when the truth comes out. It's also important to note that before Libra was a constellation that came into the collective consciousness, um, it wasn't there. This is something very recent in history. So in the past, Libra's asterism was associated with Scorpius and Virgo. It was never its own constellation. And so, this star still holds residue of scorpionic energy, the scorpionic past. And it's also energetically connected to Acrab and Graphias and Scorpius as well. But this star is known for being very loyal, very trustworthy. So with Mars here, it can bring that masculine polarity energy into our lives of those who want to be very loyal, those that are trustworthy. People who have this in their chart, they're like confidants that are unafraid to tell it like it is. So around this time, those kind of friends and people may materialize in our lives. They hold a lot of yang energy, and especially with Mars there, it's even more emphasized. But again, the truth that comes out through Zubin El Crab is like very sharp, very harsh. It's kind of like the energetics is like something that comes from a close friend that's very reliable and trustworthy. So any like hard to accept fact or information that reaches you about this time can be considered like divine messaging that's meant to reach you so that you can embrace an honest truth that may be really hard to swallow. It could be about your own masculine energy, could be about how you take action, could be about your drive, could be about the men that you allow in your life or the type of masculine energy you allow in your life. Um, but Zubin Al Crab is connected to one-on-one relationships, particularly family and relatives, or even like close friends that you may consider a best friend or a family member. And it highlights that ability to speak truth, despite what your tone may be, with an underlying knowing that the connection will remain. So it's kind of like, you get into a huge fight with your sibling or whatever, but like you'll still be cool. That's the kind of energy that Zubin Al Crab has. And the caustic nature of language that comes from this star is often associated with like a sense of familiarity. So again, it's like that family, that friend, that family friend, or like the notion of like being familiar of like someone, like maybe someone saying it's like, okay, they're getting a little bit too familiar with me. Um, so the notion of like a sense of propriety definitely holds no water on Zub and Ella Crab. And the even though again it's very caustic, very abrasive typically, but the energetics of this star is often very well loved by people, even if not well received, especially by people who hold truth in very high esteem. And that is our last Libra star that we're going to be discussing this month. So I'm curious, Zuby, now that we've talked about these four stars in Libra, I'm curious if you can guess the one that's activated my chart. Zubin El Akrab, Zubin El Shmali, Zubin El Janubi, and Brachium.
Well, considering there's two, I don't know, because the harsh truth that just happened with you telling me a harsh truth, but then there's also what you described as like the polar extremes that you're going through internally, which I think was like Zubin something. I don't know. The two extremes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's through yeah, Zubin El Janubi.
Okay, because it's either that, because that's what
Or no,
you.
Zubin El Shamali. Sorry, I'm just like double checking my thing real quick. Yeah, so yeah, you're correct.
Which one?
It's both of them.
Oh, well, look at that.
Yeah. Good job.
Thanks.
Um,
Look at me being observant and listening
mhm.
and whatever that one star was.
So, oh, well, wait, when you were talking about the being balanced, are you talking about like making the balanced decisions based on like using psychic information, or are you talking about like not being a neutral and holding the extremes and then becoming neutral?
I think the extremes.
Oh, okay. So then you were not correct, but that's okay.
Oh, okay. Well,
So mine's the balanced decision making through um, astrology and divinatory practices, which is Zubin al Shamali. The
oh,
extreme one is Brachium.
okay. I don't know. You were just expressing the two extremes and coming back into the balance, so that's why I just assumed. Oh,
That is true. I mean, Libra energy can typically embody, any Libra, but these are specifically activated in my chart. And yeah, Zubin crab for sure. I got a mouth. It's funny because I've never really saw myself as like sharp or blunt or anything like that, but I've gotten that feedback so much in my life of like, wow, y'all are just so soft. That's just how I feel. And I'm not talking about you specifically. Um, because like you didn't give me that feedback necessarily, even though you did thank me for a harsh truth, but like of
Yeah, I
people
mean,
who
but I
just
also
can't
said
handle
like
it.
your delivery.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. You actually have told me that quite often. That my delivery could be quite abrasive. And the thing is, I always feel like I even muted a little bit. So like even when I'm told that, I'm just like, oh my God, I've already softened it a little bit. So, but anyway, that's where it comes from. Is that Zubin al Karab.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like harsh truths are triggering. So
Yeah.
even if it is triggering, like for me, I go through the motions. Like it is a harsh truth. I'm processing it. I've acknowledged it, and then I think it, and then just like reflecting through it. So it really is kind of, I guess, like going even back to that 1 star of like listening, reading between the lines, like kind of like that active listener vibe of like seeing and,
Hmm.
because some people are either ready for the truth or they're not, but
Yeah.
sometimes it is a deliverance, but sometimes it needs to be, it really is person case by case
Hmm.
depending on the person or even just speaking collectively, and that's kind of like where the polarizing thing comes. I don't know, it's so there's so many
Yeah.
different levels to it. I can't really just say the one thing. It really is fractals.
Yeah. And what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. I'm very thankful for you because you actively want to grow and change and evolve, like in the best ways. You're also on this journey of becoming and really stepping into your highest self. Whereas a lot of people I've experienced when I share a harsh truth with them, they are so off put at being held accountable that they will just completely not even be able to be around me or talk to me anymore.
Yeah, well,
So, which I don't care. It's like if you can't handle the truth, then you can't have a friend like me. Like I will always tell it exactly like it is because it's the right thing to do.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it is like ego, right? It is essentially like a jab at the ego because the ego wants to be seen in a certain light. So once the truth pierces through that, right, it really just depends on the person and their ego, right? But anyways,
Hmm.
I appreciate
Yeah.
you saying that because honestly, it's just been like the
Yeah,
seven.
the resistance to obtaining harsh information lasts about 5 minutes with you, if that, like if at all. Some people they can't handle it at all. So yeah, it's one of the qualities I really admire about you is that you can take it, you integrate it, you use it, and you're not. And this is something I've also felt about myself, like being a happy person, but not being content. Of like being happy where you're at, but still striving for better and still wanting to do things. Like never being stuck in the contentedness so much that you want to stop growing. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something
Yeah.
that I've noticed about you as well. I think that's what makes our friendship really nice.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Hmm.
Heart, heart, heart. And then I appreciate you telling me truths as well
Hmm.
because, I mean, again, like we can all, I'm not saying like we all have blind spots, but there are some things that we need to see from different perspectives on.
Hmm.
And thank you for bringing the truth to me because honestly, I feel everything that you've been saying, like I feel it now. And it's really great to feel it before it actually happens because, like, you can do the work before the collective goes through it. And then because
Yeah.
you've integrated it, you're able to assist the collective in that way. So it's like really great to kind of just be a couple steps ahead.
Yeah. It's true. And that's part of being a way shower and being
Yeah.
a thought leader and an energy worker is to do that energy work on yourself so that you can
Mm-hmm.
help others through the same thing. Totally
Yeah.
agree. And for me, I'm not gonna work on my tone at all.
Ha ha ha.
It's just how I'm programmed. No.
Oh, okay.
Uh, I mean, I try to, I think for me, channeling it into linguistic projects really help.
Hmm.
But it's like sometimes you can be told something, but until it really, stings the ego, it's like it won't reach where it needs to reach. That's what I found with people. And again, some people will just, go off and not be able to handle it, but those who can, my throat chakra is here to tell you. And that's also a comment that I've gotten on the flip side from my clients is like, wow, you get so deep and you're so detailed. And, again, it's like I will tell the harsh truth. It's not sugar-coated, it's not mean, it's just how it is. And so many of my clients have told me, like, you hit it so spot on the head, like without making me mad. Like, it's the truth that I really needed to hear. And personally, I love getting that feedback. And now that I
Hmm.
understand my chart activations, now I know why.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like the essence of, right, like, how do I explain this? The last star that you talked about, the familiarity, like hearing
Mhm.
harsh truths from someone that's so close
Yeah.
can feel like, oh, whatever. Like you don't want to take in that information in that way, but you're so kind of like a spiritual worker. It's like,
Hmm.
right, you and I were each other's psychics, and then now we are where we are. So it's just
Hmm.
like hearing that information feels like, oh, it's kind of too close. But it's like,
Hmm.
that's the point. It is
Yeah.
close. It is
Uh-huh.
close. So you
Yeah.
should be taking the information.
Exactly. And
um,
that's what's great when you have a reader, energy worker who can tell you things like that because it's like, whoa, they're talking to me like my best friend would talk to me because they have that level of detail and knowledge, even though they know nothing about me. They're just tapping into my energy. So,
mhm.
yeah, that's something that I find I've gotten for years from my clients, and it's something I admire about myself. So, yeah, I don't really want to change it that much.
Again, it's like a case by case sometimes. I mean, when you're
Yeah,
channeling is one thing,
my
talking
son's there. Yeah, my son's there.
to
So like it's my light.
mhm,
It's my light. It's who I am at my core. But yeah, a
mhm.
little bit of refinement. And again, when I channel it into linguistic things and writing, it definitely shifts.
Yeah, uh-huh.
But nonetheless, let us move on to Jupiter. So Jupiter is leaving Gemini, but not so fast. So as we see through the whole month, it's still going to be, it's moving into the Gemini Cancer void, but it's still, oh, let's just go to the 31st. Boom. See, not moving too much as we get into the outer planets. So Jupiter is going to be activating Al-Kirkab as we lightly talked about because of uh the new moon in Virgo and the square to Jupiter. But Al-Kirkab is a fascinating star. So it's connected to and known for connecting things together, like a clothespin, a link, even something like an adhesive, a glue, something like that. So with Jupiter activating this star, it can help us take things or concepts or ideas and put them together in order to deepen our understanding or comprehension or expand our worldview. Um, Al-Kirkab has a very high vibrational Mercury energy within it. So it holds this like listening to divine guidance and then applying it to day life. So it's more of that daily routine aspect of Mercury after applying the information that's obtained, which I think works very well with the Virgo energy, which of course Virgo is all about our routines. And so El Kirkab kind of holds that kind of Virgo-y energy of using divine guidance and then applying it on a day-to-day basis. This isn't like willy-nilly when I want to. This is day-to-day routines. And El Kirkab is also associated with miracles. miracles, unexpected wins, unexpected gifts. So with Jupiter, the planet of luck and abundance, it's super amazing. I love it. This could even be things like winning the lottery, winning giveaways, finding unexpected money, things along those lines. So I absolutely adore this. And Jupiter is going to be activating El Cab almost all of October. So
Well, that
we,
shows again, putting in daily practices and daily routine can reward you with those wins because you're actively showing, like, I'm showing up for myself, I'm taking care of myself. And in return, right, the universe is just going to reflect back to you the self care that you're giving and the miracles that you're providing because we see it all the time, depending on who you are, obviously, of people healing these diseases that are, quote, fatal, and they healed themselves through nature. Those are considered miracles, but it's like, how did they do it? They worked with the earth. So it's like, yes, to any other eye, it looks like a miracle, but they did the work. You know what I mean? So day
mhm.
in and day out, they showed up for themselves, they did the thing, and they did it. So yeah, I guess like figure out what you are doing on a day-to-day basis, how you can implement it, and then by the by that time in October, you'll get your reward.
That's right. And then on the 10th of October, so 10/10 on the calendar system, Jupiter is going to be aligned with Pollux. And I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning, just to reiterate. An activation is when the planet is visibly activating a star and around it, or even occulting it. An alignment is when the planet or celestial body is perpendicular from the ecliptic to the pole star. So if you drew a line from the ecliptic of where this is, like right here, all the way to the pole star, Pollux would be right there. So for anyone who's curious about that. So Pollux has a lot of the yang energy polarity. So alignments, whenever we have Pollux alignments, it's like embodying activity, assertiveness, light, warmth, logic, movement, progress, all that masculine energy. So with Jupiter here, we can expect some, philosophical shifts, our beliefs to change, perhaps even about the yang polarity. And alignments can also cause twin flame progressions for those of you who are on that journey, especially calibrations in the yang energy. So with Jupiter there, it can cause expansions, traveling, perception shifts that are necessary to facilitate that journey. And Pollux is also another star that holds the energetics of immortality, just like Unica High. So except Pollux, it's through the progression of procreation. So it embodies energy of like men longing for and procuring wives in order to have children and to satisfy their propensity for a legacy that outlives them. So it's not necessarily an individual that's immortal, but it's the immortality of the DNA that gets passed on through progeny. So with Jupiter here, there can be more, it could be a perception shift. It could be, people coming in who have more of that emphasis on like wanting to who want that or deepen the importance of it, whether it's you or, someone else in your life who's discussing it. Um, it can kind of be like, the party guy who never wanted to settle down, Jupiter. Um, and then all of a sudden being like, yeah, okay, I get it. Like, I want to settle down. I want to have a wife and kids, like in a very serious and real way and actually meaning it. It's kind of the energy of like having your frontal lobe fully developed and like completely changing the way that you think about those kinds of things. Um, but in general, Pollux is very energetic, very crafty. It's very curious. It wants data. It's often surveying others and recording information in order to obtain deeper understanding and to enhance like one's user experience, like in any sort of application. So I really like Pollux as a star. It's very interesting energy. Um, the low vibe of Pollux can be brutal. It can materialize as sometimes like cruelty or tyrannical energy. So be very careful about that again because it is so yang dominant, especially if that yang dominance doesn't have a healthy relationship with, wife or child or family, right? Like doesn't have if they don't have the drive to create that type of group, I guess, and have that desire and purpose of like, I'm taking care of my family and things like that. If they look outside and want to like be cruel and dominating over other people, that kind of energy can come through Pollux as well. It can also materialize as things like adultery, children born out of wedlock, alcoholism, over drinking, things like that. Especially with Jupiter here, right? Known for being kind of wild, known for enjoying partying. So be mindful of your actions around this time and also be mindful of like the people that are coming into your life around this time as well. Because usually Jupiter's like, oh yeah, like have fun, do this, do that. But aligned at Pollux, it's a little on the harsher end. But hopefully for most of you, it materializes as like really grounded, healthy, yang polarity energy.
It could also, I don't know, I was just feeling like F-boy energy coming back and realizing, oh my gosh, you're so great. I'm ready. But it's like a little too late,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
you know, or situationships turning into relationships. So it really just depends on you as a person, maybe, if you're willing to bring back that energy. And if you are, look at their actions rather than their words. Like, be very, me personally, I'm like, no, you had your chance.
And you blew it.
Huh?
And you
Yeah.
blew it.
Uh-huh. Yeah. But whatever, there's certain situations where if they have really changed, they could show you without actually letting them in completely back into your life. So take it how it resonates wherever you are, however that applies to you, whatever your standards are, take that. But the best thing to take is actions. So look at the actions.
Exactly. And as we get into more of the outer, we have Chiron here. Chiron is retrograding all month. Its retrograde began on the 31st and is going to retrograde until January 2nd.
What's so retrograding?
Chiron.
Oh.
So it's okay. Chiron retrograde is a great time for healing, revisiting old wounds that need attention, and also stimulating healing gifts maybe that you've been sitting on that you've been wanting to utilize. Because it is in Pisces, these are mainly spiritual alignment things, ethereal things, multidimensional self things. But in general, this is the collective consciousness of everyone, right? That is healing on a collective level. And all we can do is to be the microcosmic healer, heal ourselves so that we can influence the macrocosmic scale of reality and inspire other people to do their own healing work. As I always like to say with Chiron, remember, you can only heal yourself. It's kind of like that Vendomatrix stuff. You can only be the co-creator or the creator. I mean, you're always co-creating with the universe, right? But you are the universe. So you can only be the creator of your own timeline, right? And inspire other people to get to their own personal utopian timeline. The same can be said with healing. You truly can only heal yourself. But when you do that, the impact that you make paves the way for others to heal themselves. So, a lot of healers, energy workers, and the like awaken during Chiron retrograde to really using their gifts to help themselves, help others, and in general, people are going to be stimulated to do what their soul is calling them to do, which is the spiritual calling. And again, I also say this all the time, no matter what your calling is, it's spiritual. You don't have to be a spiritual worker for it to be a spiritual calling. If you want to be a Pokemon content creator full time, that is a spiritual calling. If you want to be Day trader, if that is what you've always wanted to do, and then okay, then that's it. If you want to be an artist, that's your spiritual calling as well. So, Zuby, any thoughts on Chiron retrograde?
Um, well, I don't know. I had that dream.
Oh
So it
yeah, the
feels like
bridge
the bridge. So it feels like the bridge is opening, but it's not quite time, I guess, for
for crossing.
yeah. Because I remember my dream saying like, "Oh, like it, not yet. It, don't worry. Like, it'll go back down. It'll be safer rather than trying to get over the bridge
While the bridge is in
chaotically."
two pieces.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like, allow it to come together. There's no rush. It'll happen when it'll happen.
definitely. And that's also so important with healing is giving yourself the time and space and grace and patience and not try to rush through your healing work because it doesn't work that way. Some healing things take time, which is a perfect energy to move into Saturn, the time lord. So Saturn is still in the early degrees of Pisces, technically in the Pisces seat is void. It's currently in retrograde motion. As we can see, it's moving back towards the constellation Aquarius, away from Neptune. Even though those two have been so closely linked, they're still conjunct, but less so. So it began its retrograde on July 14th. So it's been retrograding for multiple months and it's going to end on November 27th. So coming to a close, but all of October it is going to be retrograde. Saturn retrograde is a reassessment of our long-term goals, our work, career, vocation, reassessing our allocation of resources, reassessing our relationship with the public. On a larger scale, it's a revamp of our social structures, governments, public services. Saturn retrograde can cause businesses to fail, governments or government officials to fall, and any supposed authority to be questioned or even ignored. And they might be, going out with a bing bang boom as these systems are falling. So since this retrograde is in Pisces, it is for the greatest good of all, for the greatest collective consciousness, for the ultimate spiritual alignment of all. And again, since technically in Pisces seat is void, these are things that need to occur for the good of all because of multi-lifetime issues. These are deeply karmic, galactic level things that are happening. Any thoughts
Woo.
on Saturn retrograde?
Um, I guess like for those that have Saturn, Pisces Saturn, like myself,
Hmm.
I guess just like yeah, like reassessing. Obviously, Saturn return brings a very large essence to it, and especially like I don't know what you're saying is like past life stuff, spiritual reconciliation. I guess like the people that have these placements are here to like usher in the spiritual aspect of social structures and kind of like that's what it is. It's spiritual karma, right?
Hmm.
There's spiritual repercussions. So like the work that you're doing from around this time, right? The Chiron stuff and like the work that if you have this placement, the inner work that you're doing now is essentially rippling out into the collective of healing work. So doing the work for yourself is also rippling out into the larger collective scale. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such a great point of Saturn and Pisces. It is that multi-lifetime karma stuff. And like, there's a reason why you're doing the Saturn work in this lifetime as well. Like, it's connected to your other lives that you've had as well.
Or it feels like the when we were at the spiritual highs of society, like spiritual, like those who were in
Mhm.
authoritative positions in ancient times where spirituality was looked highly of,
Yes.
have been incarnated now because like they hold the template of what once was. So it's like bringing those templates back to create those foundations for this new structure that's coming into place.
That is such a great point. I absolutely adore that. Yeah. It does make sense because, yeah, we need to revamp all of our social structures so that they're in spiritual alignment, from for everything. I mean, social structures and just everything, our food, our governments, our way of living needs to be in spiritual alignment.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a great point. Okay, so we have Uranus, of course, that's still in Taurus, still going to be in Taurus for the entirety of the month, as we can see. And it's going to be activating the Pleiades cluster the entire month right here. And Uranus in Taurus in general, right, it helps us anchor technology and science that works with nature rather than against it. So it goes quite well with that Saturn energy. And so sacred mathematics and engineering are stimulated in the collective. Group and community relationships are created based on relationships with the earth, what your relationship with the earth is. It's a very farmers market or community garden type energy. Um, and again, very much a time for communities to come together that have a vision to help make sacred technology. For example, thinking about, there's a gentleman who created a car that runs on free energy in Africa. There's a gentleman who created being able to turn any plastic into gasoline. Like these are the level of um, or like people who have made 100% biodegradable plastics and things like that. Like this is the type of science and tech that Uranus and Taurus is really stimulating here. And we also have the social stratification energy that comes through Uranus is going to be based on how people honor their body through Taurus, how people are respecting the planet through Taurus, and what quality of resources people accept in their lives through Taurus, which also kind of ties into all that Virgo energy as we're talking about food quality. It's like people who eat McDonald's all the time, they're going to be connecting with other people who are in that trash energy. People who are only eating organic, who are importing their, from their own garden, even, right? Even organic at the grocery store sometimes can have issues. People who are eating from their own garden, importing their flour from Italy, they're going to be connecting with people who are on that same wavelength. Okay, Uranus began its retrograde on September 7th, which was also the day that we had the first eclipse that we had when when the moon was activating Hydor in Aquarius. If you want information on that, you can go watch the September transit episode. So Uranus began its retrograde on the day of the eclipse, which is pretty wild, and it will continue its retrograde until February 3rd. So Uranus is going to be retrograding the entire month of October. And Uranus retrograde is a time to revisit and reassess themes like science, technology, engineering, mathematics. It's also a time where we may see various groups or classes retry various revolutionary actions or rebellious tactics to help any sort of counterculture movements or help the marginalized or assist with humanitarian efforts. And during Uranus retrograde, some of the cycles that need to resolve will like come up in order for us to resolve them in terms of allowing individuals to pursue their genius, allowing people to align with these sacred technologies. And again, the most sacred technology is the body, of being able to activate your light body and so on. So that can also, things can come up so that that can occur. And of course, during retrogrades, distortions can pop up as well. Distortions in the Uranus energy that may pop up in order to heal are things like social alienation, relationship with AI, psychology and psychological operations, mental warfare, all that, and even things like extraterrestrial species, beliefs about aliens and things like that. They're not our creators. They're genetic manipulators, but there's the false template that aliens are gods, and that's also not true. But because it's in Taurus, people will really be speaking up against anything that's not good for the common man or things that actively harm our planet, especially technologies, social movements, counterculture groups, psychological operations, all that sort of stuff. Any thoughts on Uranus retrograde in Taurus or Uranus at Pleiades?
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like right retrograde, it kind of causes us to go into introspection, and especially with like community and groups like that, like reassessing your community, your groups, where you're at. Because obviously, like when you're saying like, oh, who you're attracting, like, yeah, if you're at the farmer's market, everybody at the farmer's market eats a certain way, right? And
Hmm.
you're gravitating towards that. So it's like if you're trying to do better or eat healthier, put yourself in environments where people are already doing that, and then it'll just become a norm. And obviously, like Taurus has to do with like luxury, the highest quality of things. So reassessing like what you need to do, like what you need to do to stimulate that. Maybe like you already are at that point where you're doing really great, but what's the next step? Like what's the next
Exactly.
step of you needing to do like whatever
Yeah. And to
XYZ.
really bring in a lot of the luxury codes that comes through Saturn, because or Saturn. Well, maybe come through Saturn, but through Taurus, right? Taurus is all about luxury and having the luxury of going at your own pace and slowing down and grazing and kind of stopping and smelling the flowers. And so if you're not living life at that pace on your own terms, like what is Uranus trying to teach you about being able to get into that frequency? It's probably the people around you. So just being mindful of that. If you're surrounded by people who are always grinding, who don't sleep, who say they don't have time to eat healthy, things like that, like what are you going to expect of yourself? Probably the same sort of mindset. So you want to surround yourself with people who are well relaxed, well slept, eat healthy, positive mindset, slow down, you know? Um, all right, so we have Neptune. Neptune is also still in Pisces, of course, as with Saturn. Neptune is home in Pisces. It has been for years. It started around 2021 and it will continue until about 2039, 2040. And Neptune in Pisces is major spiritual upheaval for the collective. It helps us connect to the unseen realms, understand deeper about metaphysical reality, see through the mass illusions and delusions, especially spells that are cast on the general populace. And it also helps general imagination, like helps people dream bigger. The dreamers are awakened and they're being asked to share their vision and gifts with the world. So Neptune and Pisces is a really great time because again, it's bringing us back to the reality that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience and our reality needs to reflect that. So Neptune in Pisces is really bringing these spiritual truths into the collective, like pretty hard and heavy. Um, it also highlights the collective's addiction and escapism. And so, whether again, that's to poison, to food, right? And some of these food stuff, they literally are formulated to make you addicted. Things like Chick-fil-A, for example, using like the 11 different types of sugars and additives that are only designed to get you hooked and things like that. So um, it is going to highlight these collective addiction and escapism things and then show us that true spirituality is the remedy to both of those things. So Neptune is retrograding and on, oh, let me come back to, where you go? Okay. So yeah, the whole month. But then on the 17th, it is going to be aligned with the South Galactic Pole of Sculptor. Oops. And so this is the positive polarity node on a galactic level. So this is the south galactic pole. And it's a calculation that is made between the observer perpendicular to the galactic equator. So this is associated with south node activations, so past life stuff, karmic gunk, karmic gifts. So with Neptune here, pay attention to any sort of dream that may be showing up. It may be showing how to reconcile past life issues or showing you issues that need to be reconciled from past lives. So a lot of past life stuff, can pop up, especially in terms of delusions, illusions, addictions, escapism. So pay attention to what's like happening on this day. Like, for example, you could have a past life where maybe you starved to death or something like that. I mean, obviously that's an extreme situation, but and like as you're passing away, you're like, oh, like I wish I could eat all day every day sort of thing. And then now in this life, it's like you're just gorging on food all the time. So there can be a lot of past life things that just come through that. Or, for example, illusions and delusions. Let's say you got into a cult in a past life and swore your soul to them or something that you'd always believe and blah, 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 blah. And, now you have this like weird belief and you're not sure why you hold it so close to you and things like that because you didn't fully cut karmic ties and that karmic gunk of how you pledged allegiance to this group or this person or this notion or belief or cult or whatever it may be. So you really never know. It's always good to just release all karmic residue of the past when it comes to karmic gunk. Obviously, karmic gifts are a good thing, right? It's like for me personally, I know I've been an astrologist in multiple lifetimes, and in this lifetime, I just immediately picked up where I left off and not only started, learned the information very quickly, but also started formulating things on my own and teaching new concepts and getting information that's not readily available to the public because they haven't accessed it yet. So, obviously that's a good type of energy to bring from the past, but it's always good to cut things that are of the lower dimension, energy siphons and so on, vows of poverty, vows of addiction, saying that you're going to love someone until the end of time if they show up as a abusive person in your life and things like that. So, yeah, just pay attention to what's going on. Obviously, Neptune controlling the dream state and also, imagination, visions, psychic energy. So just kind of pay attention to that. It's also a really great time to get some psychic work, energy work, divination work to help gain information of like, okay, what past life this and that is influencing me now and trying to hinder or block me from achieving oh, my ultimate reality or becoming my best self and things like that. But the South Galactic Pole is a point that usually holds the energy of using the material that you have in front of you to carve what you want, right? It is in sculptor, which is, you end up with a block and you sort of chisel away what's no longer necessary so that you're left with what you actually want. So use those past life skills and gifts to your advantage. And if, again, with the imaginative dreamlike of Neptune aligned here, there can be a lot of creations that want to be birthed at this time, especially if it's something that you wanted to do in a past life that you weren't able to do or accomplish for one reason or another. Maybe you always wanted to be an author, but for whatever reason you never did. It's like, okay, do it now, right? I mean, we live in such an amazing time where you can do anything, accomplish anything, be anything, and there's so many free tools at our disposal. It's really, really amazing time. And to kind of backtrack a bit, right? On the 13th, we have Venus that's aligned at the North Galactic node. And then now on the 17th, Neptune is aligned at the South Galactic pole. And again, on the 14th, we have Venus aligned at Supergalactic Center. So basically 13th to 17th, whoa, 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 big, big, big. Major recalibrations and balance of the yin yang polarities on a galactic level, but also of North Node, which is associated with the North Galactic Pole, and South Node, which is associated with the South Galactic Pole as well. So big nodal recalibrations through the galactic poles. It's a big time. it's a big time. We can really expect some like pretty big shifts, especially with some of these Libra activations and alignments, right? Like we're really going to be focusing on balance here. So it's a big like balance recalibration here right before we go into the like true Libra season in November. It's going to be awesome.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, any thoughts on Neptune retrograding and
Um,
South Galactic Pole stuff, anything like that?
um, I guess like staying away from substances, probably.
Yeah,
If
that's a
you've been
good point.
feeling the call, like again, like detoxing, like understanding like what you're addicted to, now's the time to like release that. Like working on releasing the substances and addictions and getting back to a place where it doesn't affect you or have a hold on you. Because
That is such a
really,
great.
huh?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm just
Mhm.
saying, like, really, like, what it is like you're clearly trying to, uh, like, being addicted or trying to consume something, you're trying to take away from what your spirit is trying to tell you. Like, you know, you should be doing something, but you're filling it with substances and addictions and stuff like that. Or maybe it's your psychic gifts and you're not ready to tap into it. So the best way to keep it at bay is through substances. Again, it really depends on where people are at. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's totally true. And even just doing a verbal affirmation around this time can be important. Of like, maybe you notice that you're addicted to your phone. Maybe you notice you're addicted to eating or social media or sex or, anything, drugs, alcohol, and just saying like, if there is any attachment, past life, issue, demon, entity, anything that is wanting me to be addicted to XYZ that is stopping me from reaching my higher potential and goals, it is banished and can never come back. Getting some energy work can help too, but even just making these verbal affirmations can be enough to clear the contract or even writing it down because really it can make a huge, huge change.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and last but certainly not least, we have Pluto here. As we talked a little bit about it with the new moon already, uh, Pluto is in the Sag Cap void, Sagittarius Capricornus void, and it is going to be there for the entire rest of the month. Pluto has been retrograding since May 4th, but is going to stop its retrograde on the 13th. So Pluto will be direct for the rest of the month and start moving more towards Capricornus once again, but
Oof.
still at the end of October, still in Sag Cap void. Not, it's kind of inching its way into Capricornus every year. It's been toggling its alignment with Altair, Pluto's American true Pluto return star. If you're interested in learning more about that, we have a special topic episode in season 1 on Pluto return. But in general, Pluto's alignment with Altair is helping shut down the surveillance state, which I've mentioned quite a bit, especially with the energy that came through um, the Libra stars that are tied to the surveillance state. And so, again, Venus ends its retrograde on October 13th, which, by the way, that is the day that Venus is at the North Galactic Pole. So Pluto is assisting us with those yin calibrations. And Pluto retrograde has been helping us, excuse me, review our cycles and our lives, reassess how we're evolving, help us put a checkpoint in our transformations, shed light on multiple lifetime patterns. It also helps us revisit our shadow work, shows us where we still need to do more shadow work, as well as how to connect to deeper and lower levels of existence. And again, that's really going to Pluto will help us through all that Graphias energy, especially once it's, direct again too. Because it's in the Sagittarius Capricornus void, this transformational energy on a personal and a collective level has been connected to perceptions, perspectives, and the belief systems of Sag. Of course, we also saw travel completely change, academia completely change while Pluto was actually in Sagittarius. That was like during COVID time and all that. And then it's moving into, the social, governmental, and corporate level of existence through Capricornus. So, we're ending that transformation of the travel, education, perception, all those Sag things, and just starting the transformational shifts that Pluto is bringing into Capricornus and about to rock the fucking world. We're ready, Pluto. I love Pluto, so I'm not afraid of any of this. And again, once Pluto's direct again, mid-October on the 13th, we'll notice that transformation comes with ease. It's a little bit easier for us. There's less of the reassessing and less of the deep shadow work and more of like the actual shadow integration on a personal and societal level and even a global level. So Pluto moving direct again, goes retrograde every single year. It's not like, oh my God, a huge thing, but once Pluto is direct, it's going to be easier to make the changes and evolve in the ways that we have been reassessing over these months since May. Any thoughts on Pluto?
Other than, yeah, like again, the shadow integration, like your shadow are your gifts. It's just about recognizing them and, yeah, just integrating them and utilizing it for your greatest good and also humanity's greatest good.
Absolutely. Okay, well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Zubida, for being our guest and sharing all of your wisdom. I took some awesome notes about the information that you brought forth, so thank you so much for that.
Uh-huh.
And thank you for everyone who came and watched the live. And thank you for everyone who is watching the replay. Your support means the world to us. And remember, if you're interested in any True Sky tools or services, all of that can be found in the description box below. And of course, try out Zuby's amazing guide for the practical guide to realistic change. Please check it out. It is amazing. Our next episode is going to be November's transit report. So if you want to get all the details of what's coming in November, join on Tuesday, October 28th at 7:30 p.m. EST here live on YouTube. So we hope that we will see you then, because November is going to be a pretty intense time. Obviously, we'll be going through Libra season and then, of course, Scorpius season and Ophiuchus season, which is arguably kind of the darkest time of the year and pretty intense. So if you need a little bit of psychic foresight or astrological foresight into what's happening, you know where to go. That's right here. So thank you everyone again. And always remember, when you align with the true sky, you align with your true self. And until next time, keep your eye on the sky because the true sky don't lie.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you again, Zuby.
Uh-huh. All right, bye everybody.
Bye.